Dylan Joyce back on. Blocked! In the end, it blocks the punt and falls on it for a touchdown! Isaiah Jones on the recovery.
This is 365 Sports.
Essential to come away with points in this drive.
Tony in the backfield there.
He's got it on the pitch. Tony breaks free. Malachi Tony spinning, scoring.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Got to get to the 8. He's going to take off and run. Mendoza weaves his way first and go diving toward the end zone. Touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Beck steps up, delivers downfield, intercepted! Jamari Sharp makes the pick that will clinch Indiana's first national championship.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Finally, how are you going to celebrate, Coach?
I'm up there.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, good afternoon on this Tuesday afternoon. Craig Smoak with me, David Smoak on, again, the old set, which has been moved in the original room in which we started back in September of 2020, as they continue to tweak what we have in the other room. Colin and Paul, Andrew, Garrett, and Brandon have been working overtime to get that done as we make small steps to get it right again. Brandon Rowe is back from being at a visitation, a funeral that is tomorrow up in the Rockwell area, and we're back with you. Thank you very much for your time. Andrew has already popped up a poll about the Big 12. And speaking of which, Craig Smoak, Iowa State flexes the muscle. I mean, it was a hell of a game. Houston had it. It looked like they were going to be able to handle this thing, but Iowa State was almost flawless when it comes to turnovers. They had no turnovers the last 18 minutes and 10 seconds in the win against Houston in a game which they win.
Yeah, it was an incredible atmosphere. I know we'll talk to, I believe, Travis Hines coming up in a little while. So, yeah, 70-67, Cyclones win at Hilton. And I saw quite a few people who are as experienced and seasoned as going to games there as probably anybody walking this earth, all saying last night that might have been the best atmosphere they'd ever seen, or it was the loudest that place has been since such and such. And I think they have that moment quite a bit with that type of crowd and that venue, but it does seem like last night was pretty special. And then, yeah, to have a kind of back and forth game there early on, both teams hitting big threes, big shots. Felt like at halftime, Houston had kind of weathered a storm and was in pretty good position. And then, as you mentioned, Iowa State takes care of the basketball, just a big, huge moments down the stretch. And Tamin Lipsey's an awesome player. Yeah. And there was a lot of awesome players on the court last night, Flemings and so on and so forth. But, yeah, that was two heavyweights, and it kind of is almost becoming cliche to say the heavyweight thing, but it's true. I don't know how to better describe any time that you take any combination of Texas Tech or Arizona or Iowa State or Kansas or Houston, and occasionally you can throw in somebody else in that mix, but you just take two of those teams and throw them in an arena somewhere, and especially an arena like Hilton, and let the ball go and let them go do their thing. And that's what we saw last night, was very high-level college basketball between two teams that both stand and would be disappointed, I think, to not make a pretty substantial run in the tournament. And I think in the case of Houston in particular, it's almost national title or bust for them like every year. But I think Iowa State's somebody that can make it very interesting as well. So, yeah, incredible basketball game, and congrats to the Cyclones on a massive win for that program and for that fan base. Yeah,
Travis Hines will join us from the Des Moines Register at 3:40. Kevin Flaherty, who covers the Big 12 from out of Kansas City, will join us at 4:25. We have Off the Radar and also Hall of Famer John McClain today at 5, and we'll have poll results and quizzes today. Again, Paul is still working behind the scenes. Yesterday helping to produce the show, and today working on some of what we need to get done in the new studio around the corner. Brandon Rowe back, and also Garrett Ross and Andrew Valade are here. Iowa State, the turnover. Think about this. Houston, which is in your face, just like Iowa State. They both are very physical. No turnovers the last 18 minutes and 10 seconds. That's hard to imagine. Houston ranked 9th in the country in forcing turnovers. Also, Iowa State overcame a 10-point deficit late. Jamarian Bateman hit some big threes. Minute 17 left. They get the go-ahead shot. It was fantastic. It really was a great game. And Travis, who will join us, as I said that it might be prisoner of the moment. Sometimes the recency bias, said it's the loudest he's heard the Hilton Coliseum since they had a 21-point comeback against Oklahoma back in 2015. So there we are with that game. So what does that mean now, Craig, and us and you with the standings? Houston, despite the losses, a half game up on Arizona. Iowa State's a game back at 10-3. KU and Texas Tech are 9-3, and then BYU and West Virginia hanging around at 7-5, and UCF, TCU, the next level at 6-6. It continues to be, and it will be the rest of the week. We've talked about the schedule, including games tonight. There will be TCU at UCF, Baylor at Kansas State without Jerome Tang, and Texas Tech on the road in Tempe against Arizona State.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a great race down the stretch. And I think last night's game, as Jason Scheer pointed out, from an Arizona perspective, for example, I mean, there's multiple teams in play that can look at that from different angles. But as he pointed out last night, Arizona had likely dropped to a 2 seed if Houston had won that game. So as he put it, would have likely meant that Arizona would be out of the West because Houston would have been a 1, or like Arizona would get knocked out of the Western region because Houston would have been a 1 out West. So that would have bumped Zona not only off of the 1 line, but also out of probably their preferable region, I would think. So, yeah, there's all those types of things to start taking into account when it comes to some of these wins and what they mean. And we'll see. A lot of basketball still left to be played, and yet not a lot of basketball still left to be played in so many ways because, hell, it's almost March. We're closer to March than we are to February 1st now at this point. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. The Big 12 is already kind of in March Madness form, and you just do wonder about beating each other up. But so long as you can stay healthy enough on the other side of it, these handful of teams will be as seasoned and as ready for a tournament as anybody possibly could be because they're getting big-time money matchups consistently just within conference play. And I think, yeah, there's a handful of teams that you get excited about the possibilities of where they could go and what that could look like. And I just, again, will reiterate that I don't want to make everything about let's fast forward to the end, but I just think it's imperative for the Big 12 to actually have one of these teams take home a national title. Yep. and to do so this year and not – it's been 3 years since this, and then it's all of a sudden 4, and – next thing you know, you're the league that, I mean, the basketball is great. The teams are great, but we know what matters and what people remember, and that's the national championships. And so they got a few teams that will have a crack at that. And hopefully for their sake, and especially if you're rooting on that side of the fence, that one of those will be able to do that. But yeah, if you're also somebody who I respect, you just root for your team. So you're just an Iowa State fan or an Arizona fan or a Tech fan or whatever. You feel great about your individual chances. So either way you look at it, when we're talking about these programs, they're all set up really well. And we're set up as fans for a really entertaining backstretch Big 12 tournament. And then, of course, the big tournament as well.
Well, here's something to think about. This came from Henry Greenstein. One of these teams, Houston, Arizona, Iowa State, Kansas, and Texas Tech, will have to play on Wednesday of the Big 12 tournament because they're so loaded at the top, which means they'll have to win on Wednesday to then get a chance to play the rest of the week. One of those 5 teams, they're all ranked, among the top 13 teams in the country, just because only 4 teams can get that first day off. And so you have that to look at forward to Kansas City.
Yeah, and so I know it's down the line, but I'm just seeing a lot of it's the off season of football, so you start seeing a lot of just stuff pop up as far as ideas and things that, predictions and whatnot. So what is one topic that pops up all of a sudden as soon as the offseason starts every single time?
Too early to whatever?
No, I mean like a grander realignment pops up like every single offseason. So a lot of it is BS and just fan casting, wish casting, and all of that. And then some of it, might very well have some substance to it. And some of it's easy to put together and say, well, yeah, like, of course, North Carolina's probably talking to somebody in the Big Ten. And, of course, that's going on behind the scenes. To what degree we know about what the conversations are, that you use your own judgment on that. But it is something very much that looms in the background. And then when we get into post-football, and it becomes a much bigger thing because there's no football to talk about. And basketball does take over to some degree. My point here is that when realignment gets brought up in the past few years, after the Big 12 win got Arizona, who has paid off in spades already, and the other schools that have also joined up, obviously BYU, Utah, so on and so forth. Houston's been a massive get in basketball, and then football really elevated their game last year. But then we've heard about how many other schools, like a dozen other schools, right, at some point or another have been mentioned of like the Big 12 should go at this team and that team and this team. The one, though, that got people kind of going, ooh, was Gonzaga, right? And so, yeah, that would have been fun. It would have been cool to see another round of regular season games and another team in the tournament that is really, really good. And it would certainly maybe spice up the TV deal that now you have another game that is really attractive for broadcast partners and all of that. But my whole thing is, it's cool to have like a bunch of 9s, but you need to have a 10 every once in a while, right? You need a 10 to go like finish the deal. So my point with all of that is like, there's a lot of really good teams. They need a great team though. They need somebody to win a title. And I know they've had a couple of teams do that here recently. I think they've got multiple shots with the teams that are in place this year. And we need more teams to keep doing work. No, they need somebody to bust through and break through. And I think between Houston and Arizona and Texas Tech and Iowa State and Kansas, there is a great crack at somebody taking home that title this year.
It would be great if two of them can get to the final, and then you kind of course, to take care of your business. So there we are with the thought that one of those 5 teams is going to have to play on Wednesday in Kansas City at the Big 12 basketball tournament. You brought up bracketology, et cetera, seedings. Joe Lunardi updates this thing at least once or twice a day. From yesterday's result of Iowa State, last night's result in Ames of beating Houston, here's what changed. Arizona remains the number 1 seed. Iowa State moved up from 8 to 6 on the second line, a number 2 seed. The 8th overall, now 6th. Houston remained 5. Illinois went up from 7 to 6, and it was Purdue who dropped from 7 to 8. Meanwhile, Tech now is a 12. They're the number 3 seed, but a number 12 team overall with Joe Lunardi's bracketology. This thing is like the decimal points of what they're doing among his bracketology, and he does a great job with it, no doubt about it, no question about it. Now, remember the story about with Jerome Tang, who tonight will not be at K-State when they play Baylor against his former head coach in Scott Drew. So about him and saying what he said, if you're a K-State fan and you're dug in that you think that perhaps it was cause for him to get fired, it may be because you're right. It may be because you're also a huge K-State fan. It's nothing wrong with me bringing that up. Meanwhile, we keep waiting for what was it. Well, a lot of the things that have been said is what he said after the game when they were beaten by Cincinnati so badly at home. Andy Kennedy at UAB, I saw this, after they lost to Tulane. You think about what Jerome Tang said about taking the names off the back of the jersey. These are college scholarship players that are making more money than most people in this room in the postgame. Is it too much to ask for you to make a layup? I mean, we're in bozo land, man. That's from Andy Kennedy. I have no problem with what he said. I have no problem with coaches going off in the postgame as long as they don't get really real personal. And I think sometimes people look for something and they want to blow it up even worse. But it's what coaches do after a bad loss or a tough loss. The frustration is there. And I do remember when I said yesterday that a player made it. He said, hey, what Jerome Tang said to us after the loss was we needed to hear that. It needed to be said. So
Yeah, I think I'll let the players decide whether it's Betty in Wichita on Twitter or Mike in Longview that decide how offensive it was to a guy on the team. I'll let the players decide that and then tell the AD what they feel like. I think these are grown men and women who can stand a little bit of coaching. I don't know why we're trying to pamper people when I think it's pretty clear that young people can handle themselves, and I don't think it does them any good to try to shy away from any criticism whatsoever. Now, you can argue that sometimes it can go too far. I don't know. I felt like I saw way worse things from Bobby Knight back in the day or any other number of coaches at different various points over the years that it didn't like shock me to see what Jerome Tang said. It didn't really make me think anything other than, yeah, this thing's not going to keep going for too much longer. And sure enough, it only went on for another day or so. I think
about a week after, less than a week after he said it in the postgame. Yeah.
Was it that long? I thought it was even shorter than that.
Well, they lost to Cincinnati like on Tuesday or Wednesday.
I forgot there was another game after that. So, I mean, so a few days went by and ultimately that was it. I think Kansas State fans have their opinion, and it's the very K-State fan opinion to have is, guess what? No surprise, you want him fired for cause so that your team can save money and then go spend that elsewhere. Understandable. If that was Clemson that did that, Clemson fans would do the same thing K-State fans are doing. And guess what? Everybody else is looking at it and saying, no, they're just trying to do exactly what I just said. And we all know that's what they're doing, and they know that's what they're doing, but people can't take off the fan mask. And so you do have some K-State fans pushing back, which is understandable to some degree, but let's just call it what it is. They don't want to pay all that money, and they're looking for a way to get out of it. And Jerome Tang wants all that money and knows he's probably not going to get it. So eventually they're going to come to an agreement, and they will probably settle this thing. We'll hear all the sabers rattling about court battles and things like that, but I highly doubt that it gets to that point. And then if it does, then it's going to get really super contentious. But I see all this ominous, like Cat 41 is like, he doesn't want getting out. What's going on? And, and okay, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see when all is said and done. I don't know about any skeletons in a closet. I know I didn't hear about any skeletons until all of a sudden he was fired and he needed to reduce the buyout. Now, I wasn't on K-State message boards all the time, so maybe there was talk going on, but didn't seem to really affect anything too much until they were losing games the way they were losing games. So, I mean, they're going to get into a legal battle, and just like it's happened at multiple other places around the country, that will settle itself out, and I'm sure he'll walk away with a substantial amount of money, just might not be all of it, and if that's the case, then he'll be happy, and he'll be able to go start anew, and Kansas State will get what they want and not have to pay the whole thing and go and start anew and use that extra money to go fulfill whatever roster obligations they need to or whatever the new coach may want. It's an exciting time for Kansas State. I just don't want to see people start dragging names through the mud and saying these ominous things because they're just being too much of a fan. You know what I mean? And instead of just letting it play out. But I understand it. That's just kind of how these things go. And look, like we said yesterday, there's no anti-K-State. Replace their name with somebody else's name. They've been through it at some point in time. So nobody's like mad at them. We're all just saying, we know what you're doing. Like, we see what you're doing. It's not like there's like a little mystery going on here. And now we're just waiting to see if it's going to be successful or not. But I know this is a random thing to connect, but there's this guy running for, I think it's like comptroller here in Texas, Don Hines. And he's very well-to-do family. I think his father owned like car dealerships in the Fort Worth or in the DFW Metroplex. And I don't know. He's been a politician. He's got money. But basically, the family LLC just recently purchased Jeffrey Epstein's New Mexico ranch, which if you've never seen this thing, you talk about like a villain layer in real life. It is out in the middle of it's the capital of BFE. It is out there in the middle of absolute nowhere, New Mexico. And it came out because he's a politician. So he's having to show like, some of his records and things like finances and things. It comes out that this LLC is attached to his family. They bought Zorro Ranch within the last couple of years. I tie this in because guess what? One of the first things they did was they said, we want to buy this, but you're offering it for, I forget what the price tag was. Let's just say it's $25 million, right?
Right.
And what did the LLC, the Hines family do? They said, well, this is owned by a guy whose name really drug it through the mud. So we're going to need you to take about $7 million off of this price tag. And guess what? They got it. They because of the disparaging of the name of I know that's not the proper language to use, but because there was a stigma attached to it, right? They got the price tag to drop on that thing. And it's no different. And I know it's a weird thing to tie in, but when I was reading that last night, I was like, well, K-State's kind of doing the same thing. They're saying he disparaged the program. he knocked its lot a little bit. And so they're now saying, well, we don't owe you this much. We should pay you a lower price tag. And so very weird comparison, I know, but somehow those two things connected into my brain, and it's no different of a strategy, really. It's not at all. It's trying to find a cheaper price tag to get what you want. So that's what K-State's doing, and we'll see if they're successful. Ultimately.
Yeah, and Marquise Noel, who was fantastic, the Elite Eight team, he put this out. I reached out to him and asked him if he wanted to come on the show. He was a fantastic player. He goes, it saddens my heart to see people mischaracterize this great human being. This man has saved souls, impacted lives, and poured into his community like no other. Coach Tang has always been about it, doing the right things the right way, getting 1% better, and keeping God first. Now, he is absolutely supporting his former coach. There could be something that maybe even Marquise Noel doesn't know about.
Sure.
The old barn cat is in here saying, it's going to come out, it's bad. That's fine. And when it doesn't, we want you to be back in the chat and discussing that too.
And if it does, then great. But yeah, right now, none of us know anything, and I'm not going to be one to speculate on it. But I know that no matter if there is something or if there's not, that the strategy still remains the same, that you're still just not trying to pay all that buyout. And look, I don't think it really even needs more discussion, because that's just is what it is. That's just business. Like I just talked about with that comparison. It's just trying to do the best thing for Kansas State, trying to do the best thing for Jerome Tang, and we'll see who wins out in these legal back and forths that are now going to take place. But yeah, there is the chance that I suppose it could get ugly if they want to go to court and actually take this thing in front of some jury and try to really hash this thing on out publicly. I highly doubt that, because I do think if you look deep enough in probably anybody, you could find some skeletons. But yeah, there is sort of that ominous, well, Tang doesn't want this. And I don't know. I'm not so sure that Tang doesn't probably know something about somebody at Kansas State either. So I hope it doesn't get to that point for either side's sake. I think it's just a clear transaction where, hey, we're not going to pay you 18. We're going to give you 12. And he says, all right, cool. And then they go their separate ways. And he joins the Baylor staff, or goes and joins the Kentucky staff or something. And K-State goes and hires a hell of a basketball coach. That's what I hope happens. I
saw Ashley Hodge make a comment. He doesn't think that Tang's going to end up right back in Waco or whatever. Just feels like he's probably going to have another opportunity to be a head coach elsewhere. There will be openings, and or maybe just not coach for a year or two, because if he's going to get that kind of money, he doesn't need to coach, and maybe just kind of chill a little bit or decompress.
I mean, I would definitely take that option if I had that option in front of me, of like, yeah, why not just step back for a year and let things come to you and just kind of clear your mind after the rat race that has been the last few seasons. And I know we bring up the Scott Drew return. I've never thought that to be likely. It's obvious that would be a potential spot that he could go to if he wanted to. But yeah, I've also at the same time felt like that's maybe a little bit too close to home of what you were just doing, almost a step backwards, because you were just doing that prior to getting this K-State gig. So, yeah, you might not want to go right back to being on the bench next to Scott Drew. You might want to go just somewhere else and do something along those lines, or like you said, take a break. But we'll see what comes out in the aftermath of this little back and forth. But nothing new here, nothing to freak out about, and just believe what you want to as far as all the gossip goes.
All right, one note, a college football note or two. The Texas and Arizona State series that was going to be in 2032 and 33 is now off. That is off. The games will not be rescheduled. Arizona State will play Stanford in 31 and 32. The move to 9 conference games apparently led to this for UT, and hey, I am not going to bust UT's balls on dropping a non-conference game against a pretty damn good football program. We don't know where they're going to be in 6 or 7 years, either one of them, because they have never backed down from playing really, really good teams in non-conference. We know that, and they'll do it again over the next 2 or 3 years. But also, Arizona State game with Florida canceled, and the game with LSU might be next. That's from Chris Cartman, our buddy from SunDevilSource.com, who covers ASU.
Well, I saw the Texas news. I didn't see that there might be multiple other games that they now have to drop as well. Obviously, when those two clashed a couple years back, it was a classic, and little did we know that was really the coming out party nationally for Cam Scattaboo and for Kenny Dillingham and his program. And unfortunate for them, they couldn't finish the deal, and they certainly should have. I mean, they should have finished the deal. But anyways, that was a hell of a game, and I was looking forward to them playing again, but I guess we'll have to wait a little bit longer, or that will have to take place in a bowl or the CFP, I guess, since this will now be off the table. But, yeah, that's the first I'm hearing of other games being affected potentially. And, hey, if you want the SEC to play the same amount of games as everybody else, there's going to be something that is collateral damage, and that's going to be, I think, for pretty much all those teams in that league, having to drop a game or two of that variety. So, yeah, instead of playing Arizona State, Texas might now play Vanderbilt or LSU or whoever is going to occupy that spot. So it'll still be a good game pretty much no matter who they draw. But that would have been fun. That's unfortunate, and that's a real blow for Arizona State's schedules if they're going to have what'd you say, Texas, LSU, and who else?
Florida.
And Florida all maybe dropping off the schedule.
Well,
yeah, that
apparently
sucks.
Florida is just a matter of time. LSU is, I think, on that. They're working on that, and now UT is out.
Well, LSU's coming up 29 and 30. So, yeah, that'll have to be decided real soon. And then Texas was going to actually be after that. They still have Stanford in 31 and 32. So that's all they really – I mean, San Diego State, Northern Arizona, UNLV next year. So, yeah, taking away Texas and LSU does put a bit of a dent in that schedule and takes some of the star power away, certainly. They at least good news is they have A&M this year in College Station, and I would imagine they're going to have the return trip next year as well. So, hey, I commend them for going and scheduling what looks like half the SEC. It's just unfortunate they're only going to get, I guess, Mississippi State. They got through that one, and now A&M coming up starting this year. But that's some pretty big opponents I would be bummed out about if I was an Arizona State fan that I was looking forward to seeing back and forth, going to Austin, going to Baton Rouge, and then having them come back and return the favor. That sucks from that standpoint.
Yeah, it does. Now, this was yesterday late, and I don't think we got to – well, I know we didn't get to it. Mike Elko at A&M. Annual base salary is now $11.5 million. Would have been the fourth highest among college head coaches last year. That's a bump. He gets a new 6-year, $69 million deal per a contract he finalized last month. And this was from an open records request. Carter Carell's with the story. It includes up to $1.8 million in annual incentives for Elko and assistant coach incentives too, and support staff bonus pool as well.
Well, I mean, good for him. They had a really good year, obviously, and can't say that he's not deserving of it. I think A&M is thankfully one of those programs that doesn't do something like this, then turn around and bitch about not having enough money. So I commend them for going and spending it and then not turning around and putting their hands back out for their fans going, oh, woe is us. The NIL is just – you see that from some schools where they ask and ask and ask and ask. And I think A&M is one of those where they have to ask a lot. Everybody does. Even the titans of the cash flow in college sports still have to ask a lot. Ohio State, Texas, A&M, et cetera. But it is rare when I see them complaining about it the way you see some other programs complain about all the money that's being dished out. So, yeah, if you got it, spend it and spend it wisely. And I think inking Elko to a long-term extension is smart. I know it's the way the game goes, but it's like, man, he's been there 2 years and it's like, we got to give him the biggest contract we possibly can. It's just what a life the coaching job is. And I know that with the highs come the lows, that you can be fired, but at least with that firing, there usually comes massive buyouts. So from a financial perspective, what a job to get into if you're good enough to get to the highest levels, because if you win, you're going to get a bunch of money. And if you win just enough, but then you lose, you're still going to get a bunch of money because you're going to get whatever buyout you were signed to. But, yeah, these schools waste absolutely no time in inking extensions for guys. But it's understandable a little bit more from A&M's perspective when you think about Elko and his name being rumored for some of the jobs this past season. He is a guy who's not like from South Texas or Central Texas, and he's born and bred and he's an Aggie for life. Like, there was scuttlebutt last year about, hey, was Penn State going to reach out to him, or what was the other job? I feel like there's another job that was talking about Elko as well. But regardless, A&M, smart play by them to lock him down and make sure the rumors are pretty much kaput for the foreseeable future.
So here's my question. I'm not questioning the value, the supply and demand of what Mike Elko has earned and what he's done, but did they need to do this? Was this to help more as much the assistant coaching pool and also the bonus pool for the support staff? This is not a Jimbo Fisher thing, but we discuss this all the time when we see coaches, and I hope Elko has great success. I like him a lot. I like his style. But why? And I kind of read a couple of things about it just because. Was there anybody else after him right now? Or was this, hey, we have the money, let's do it now. A&M is never without the money, no matter the decisions they've made with other coaches. And so why did you have to do it today? Or why did you have to do it this week? What were you afraid of, or why? Put your neck on the line. What if they go 4-8 next year?
I mean, aren't you putting your neck on the line by signing the massive contract? I don't think you're putting your neck on the line by not doing that. I think you're putting your neck on the line by putting a huge investment.
That's what I just said. That's what I was saying. Why are you giving him an extension and increasing his salary and all of that when he already had a pretty good deal?
Because he had a bunch of people coming after him this offseason, like I just mentioned a second ago. So I'm sure that in those conversations that was probably discussed, and he said, okay, I'll stick around, but I want some more pool for my assistant coaches. And this isn't like they came out for a press conference today, right? This was Carter Carell's doing reporting, and this came out that's what the information was. So there's no like, well, why did they do it this week? They just did it, and then it came out in the reporting. There wasn't any like strategy to, we're going to jump this out there on Monday, February 16th and no, I mean, it was already happening, and a guy got the information and put the information out there. I don't think there's anything like grave or ominous about the decision. They're doing what everybody else literally does every time a coach is somewhat successful. So, I mean, they're just doing everything the way it's been done. I think to the point about why, it's because, well, that's the way it's done, for one. And two, he had schools that were interested in him this offseason. And three, if you said, hey, you're sticking around at A&M, great, but what do you need? Okay, well, I need this, that, and the other. Well, there you go. There's the deal. There was more money for his assistant coaches. So, yeah, there's not really a mystery here. It's just another example of a school that you wonder if in a couple of years they're going to be regretting this and bemoaning the fact they owe whatever millions of dollars in a buyout like they did with Jimbo. But I think they feel pretty good about what they've seen to this point, and I think that they're not really all that worried that will be the case here in anytime soon, at least.
Tony Reno, the head coach at Yale, he has stepped down. He's just 52, but because he said in a quote, given my health situation, I've made the decision to step down as the head coach at Yale. 14 years he's been there. I could never have imagined what this journey would be like. I am deeply grateful to the players, the coaches, the staff who gave everything they had to Yale football. He led them to an 83-49 record, second most wins in school history, and he now steps down with Yale and moves on. Also, Michigan, Sean McGee, general manager, a guy highly respected, is no longer a part of the Michigan football staff, parting ways with that. He'll be picked up pretty soon. But the coaching change with Kyle Whittingham, new general manager Sean McGee is out at Michigan. Now, one note, I can put this down a little bit later. We'll have Travis Hines here in just a moment. Oh, I wanted to put this out. This is a college football note. Over the weekend, Pat Collins, who was the head coach who won a national championship at Northeast Louisiana, Stan Humphries was his head coach, if you want to go back that far, a long time ago in the 80s, won a national title. He ended up coaching a lot in college football in Louisiana, ended up being a high school coach in Longview, and the AD stepped aside. John King, Hines' dad, took over and has been there for a long time. He passed away over the weekend. He was 84 years old. One note from me on that, Pat Collins, John King, Dickie Meeks, Mike Valerie, these were guys who came in from Louisiana to coach in East Texas, and they raised the level of the programs around that area. Everybody had to get better. They were really good. And Pat Collins, an unbelievable personality, and he passed away at 84. When we come back, Travis Hines with us from the Des Moines Register. And, oh, by the way, SJL, you were saying that I don't think any of us have said that Jerome Tang did not deserve to get fired for his record.
Absolutely nobody said that whatsoever.
Said that.
Absolutely did not even come close to saying something like
that. When you say that, make sure you're thinking through it. I forget a lot of things these days. No one on this show and nobody that I have responded to in the chat room has said that Jerome Tang and his record were not what led to him being fired. What we're saying is when you see some of this, well, did you hear about this? Where'd you hear about that? Which to me is a little bit much. It's a lot. It's way much if something does come out. But don't throw that. Don't put that in our mouth. Don't quote us when we never said that. All right, just want to get that straight because that has never been said since we came back on the air after Tang was fired over the weekend. When we come back, Travis Hines on Iowa State rolling. Big win against Houston. Great game in Ames last night at Hilton Coliseum. And this is 365 Sports. Do you have joint pain in your shoulders, in your ankles, in your knees, even maybe your wrist? Do you have pain that has not gone away no matter the treatment you've had over the years? Have you had the steroid injections in your lower back that basically, or anywhere, that has just kicked the can down the road? And yet 3 to 4, 5 months, if even that long later, you still have that pain come back. That's what was happening to me with my right hip. The pain was actually kind of coming from my lower back. It's a little scratchy in there. MRIs showed that, little gristle. And I had steroid shots constantly. And now I have now been since September, the first treatment with QC Kinetics up in Dallas. I have been amazingly limber. Don't have pain after I play golf or do anything else, whether it's working out, walking 2 or 3 miles, it is gone. And I had my first treatment back in September. Here's what they do at QC Kinetics. I'm going to give you some numbers. And in fact, are they on the screen right now, Brandon? On the screen for both Dallas and Houston. They utilize your own, inside your body, natural biologics, platelet-rich plasma, stem cells, your body's own healing ingredients. They take what's inside your body, spin it, and they put it back inside your body. This started with me back in September, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. Hip, shoulders, ankles, knees, wrist. If you're in constant pain or you have that ache that just seems to kind of, you get out of bed and, oh, God, it's there again. Do you sleep well? Is it a problem? QC Kinetics. Get rid of fighting the discomfort. QC Kinetics with both Dallas and Houston. In Dallas, 972-972-8610. You see the numbers at the bottom of the screen. And in Houston, it's 713-913-5285. Reduce the pain, get rid of the pain. Improve your mobility. Support long-term recovery. It will make a difference for you like it's made a difference for me at QCkinetics.com.
Guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf car batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Save big during the Start Something New sales event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Drive a new Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $13,000 off or choose 0% financing. Get a new Laramie Crew Cab 4-wheel drive with 3.9% financing for 72 months plus $15,000 off MSRP. Explore in a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo starting at $31,990. Happening now at Allen Samuels.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
Marco's only uses premium toppings, which means your pizza isn't just flavorful, it's mushroom-full, or sausage-full, or pepperoni-full. And you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas from the place named America's favorite pizza chain starting at $8.99 every day, only at Marco's.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
365 Sports on this Tuesday afternoon. Travis Hines for the Des Moines Register, waiting for him to join us in the video link, and then we'll go with him. Again, tonight, I mentioned the only ranked team playing tonight in the Big 12 is Texas Tech, coming off that massive win in Arizona, in Tucson. They'll play at Arizona State. Baylor at Kansas State, which, man, that first year Tang was there at K-State, beat Scott Drew, beat him a lot. And it was emotional. It was no doubt emotional in TCU tonight at UCF. Travis Hines, Des Moines Register, joins us on 365 Sports. Travis, thank you very much. We know there are 5-6 teams in the Big 12 that are all, especially 5, high level, very high level. It's like Iowa State may win last night and then Saturday, who knows, depending on the schedule. Your thoughts about what they did and the turnovers, the lack of them, to me, is still a stunning stat for the Cyclones.
Yeah, it was really just an incredible performance in a lot of ways from Iowa State, to being down 10 with 7 minutes left, to not committing a turnover the final 18 minutes of a game against a Houston defense that is relentless and ranks in the top 10 nationally in forcing turnovers. It really was one of the better performances I've seen from Iowa State in a number of years. And the bar to clear there is pretty high, including just 48 hours earlier when they absolutely beat the brakes off of Kansas. So the Cyclones, it's been an interesting couple months for them, because they were one of the hotter teams in the country in December, and then almost went into hibernation for a couple of months because the schedule didn't give them any high-level opportunities. And the one it did at Kansas last month, they really flopped and then turned around and lost the next a couple days later to Cincinnati. And I think people kind of forgot that we had seen the ceiling from this team be pretty high. And now over these last 2 games at Hilton Coliseum, I think offered a little bit of a reminder that this is certainly one of the best teams in the Big 12 and one of the best teams in the country.
Travis, I saw a lot of very seasoned Iowa State fans last night talking about the atmosphere at that game and how it was one of the best that they had ever seen, and they had seen a lot of them. Can you help those of us who could only tell so much from the television broadcast of just kind of what that atmosphere was like?
Yeah, it was excellent. I mean, I think Hilton Coliseum behind Allen Fieldhouse is the best venue consistently within the Big 12. I think there's some contenders for that, but to me, Allen Fieldhouse is a clear number 1, and Hilton Coliseum is a number 2. And when Nate Heise hits that go-ahead 3 with about 1:17 to go, it was at least matched the loudest I have heard that building. And the point of reference I have for that is back in 2015, which was Fred Hoiberg's last year at Iowa State. George Niang was a junior. Buddy Hield was at Oklahoma, and Oklahoma gets up 21 on Iowa State at Hilton Coliseum. And Iowa State comes all the way back with a 21-point second half comeback, where the place was absolutely chaos and pandemonium, for an extended period of time. We didn't get that last night, but when Heise hit that 3, the roof about caved in. It got so loud, and it was one of the better moments I've covered in that building, and now going on 14, 15 years.
Yeah, I saw where you made it, something like recency bias or whatever it was. That happens. But loud is loud. If it splits your ears, I took a trip with Baylor men's basketball. It's been back in the early 2012 or 13. Scott Drew said, hey, you want to cover a game and see what it's like to be in a Coliseum or arena that I want at Baylor at the time, the Farrell Center. And I went on a road trip, covered the game. It's not just when it gets loud. It's such an event. It's a joyous crowd who gets into the game, the music and everything else in between.
Yeah, it's a smart crowd. It's a crowd that understands to be quiet when Iowa State has the ball, and to understand really when the action isn't dictating a reaction. They don't necessarily need that 10-0 run to go crazy. When they feel the team slipping, when they see another team starting to take control, that place gets loud on its own. And I think that's a huge component, is that, yes, it's at its best when Iowa State is playing at its best, and it's this compounding effect where they both feed off each other. But I do think one of the things that makes Hilton special is that they have savvy fans that know when the team needs a little bit of juice, needs some help. And I think that played a big part last night, especially when they got down 10. And then to the place just to become deafening after Heise's 3, I think was huge for them to close that out and make things really difficult for Houston to communicate and execute over that last 60 seconds.
Travis, I don't want to fast forward to the end of the season here. We know what's coming up. Still some big games. You got Texas Tech, BYU, of course, before that. Arizona still to come as well in these last handful of games. Big 12 tournament, so on and so forth. What do you feel like the ceiling and sort of the expectation is for this team at this point?
I think the expectation certainly has to be the second weekend. The Sweet 16 is probably table stakes for this team, and it has been now 26 years since Iowa State has made an Elite Eight. And I think if they are able to do that, the season is an unqualified success, whatever happens here these last 2 or 3 weeks of the regular season. They also haven't won a Big 12 regular season title in 26 years. So I think that is a huge marker of success too. But I think the challenge for Iowa State is we've seen them hit these highs this season. We've seen them be consistent over a number of games. But we've also seen the bottom drop out a couple times at Cincinnati after that Kansas game, at TCU just a week ago today, played really poorly against a fringe NCAA tournament team. So we have seen the floor. I think the key for them is to use these last 2 games to push forward. And then the question becomes, can you continue to push forward for another 6 weeks? Because that's what it's going to take to make the Final Four. Or is there going to be another dip that costs you a Big 12 regular season title? Or is it going to come in even worse timing where you're in that second round or you're in that second or in the Sweet 16 and just really struggle? And I think that'll be, to me, the biggest question is what level of consistency and ability to play at that highest level night in and night out for Iowa State. Because it does feel like we're at the backstretch of the regular season, but if you have Final Four designs, you're still looking at a 6-week season ahead of you.
Travis, they are 4-0, Iowa State, against top 25 teams, 5-1 when it comes to the coaches poll. The loss to Kansas does not count in the AP 4-0 because Kansas at the time, remember, they had kind of slipped out. And so that's still a game that against a very good team. TCU is a dangerous one, aren't they? They kind of hang around the middle of the pack, and Jamie Dixon, they're going to scratch and claw. That was the Cincinnati game was a bad loss, but TCU is a team that might make the tournament.
Yeah, TCU is a gritty, tough team. I think the reason why that one I think stings for Iowa State is not necessarily the TCU part. It was just because Iowa State didn't play well. They failed to execute for probably about 35 minutes of that game. They play well. They take the lead with 5 minutes left and then get outscored 12-0 down the stretch. And again, if you want to be considered for a number 1 seed to be a Final Four front runner, I think if you lose that game, I think that the doubts are legitimate because that's the type of game 1 seeds win, right? Where you kind of slog through the game, you hang around, you take the best shot of a team on their home court, and then you hit the NAS and run away from them the last 5 minutes. The exact opposite happened for Iowa State in Fort Worth last week. And I think that was the concerning part. And again, they don't have a lot of breaks left in the schedule. I mean, they do get Utah, they do have Arizona State, but they've got just BYU on the road, Arizona on the road, Tech at home. This is a still daunting schedule. And I do think that plays in Iowa State's favor in kind of a weird way, because if they are able to get hot here, they win out these games or they lose one more, you are definitely in the number 1 seed conversation. And I think that would be huge for Iowa State.
I know there's a lot of different contributors and guys that played a role in last night's win, but just how much fun have you had covering Tamin Lipsey?
It's such a special experience especially these days, to get a 4-year player that has had the level of success that Tamin has had, and to be a local kid, an Ames High grad. I covered his high school games when he was a freshman and a sophomore, and to get to know his family that's at every game, that goes on almost every road trip. It's a cool thing because I think it's a fleeting experience in college basketball that used to be, the gold standard of what you'd want from a student athlete story over the course of 4 years. And, I don't know that I'll cover another player like that again in my career. So it's been really fun to watch Tamin's career unfold, not only at Iowa State, but going back to his time at Ames High.
So, okay, Travis, they beat Houston last night. Now they get to go play at BYU, but minus Richie Saunders. They still have Tech at home in Arizona on the road. Just life in the Big 12, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the back-loaded schedule is definitely going to make for great entertainment. I don't know that it'll make for great fun for Iowa State as they try to navigate that. They're going to be out in Utah for 5 days. They get BYU on Saturday and then Utah on Tuesday, and then come home to Texas Tech and then head back out west to play at the McHale Center in what I imagine will be an environment that will rival Hilton last night and Allen Fieldhouse last month when Iowa State was there. So yeah, this is a brutal stretch for Iowa State, but I don't think they're alone in that with the way that the Big 12, scheduled these matchups. It is going to be an absolute slugfest across the league for these last 3 weeks.
Travis, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a football question as we exit here, because spring ball starting up for a lot of schools, and obviously the big changeover from Matt Campbell to Jimmy Rogers. Hectic offseason, but kind of how would you describe the way these last couple of months have gone and how Cyclones fans have settled in with this new era that's about to be embarked upon?
Yeah, I mean, they're about 2.5 months into the Jimmy Rogers era, and I think people's heads are just starting to stop spinning right now because so much happened so quickly with Matt Campbell leaving for Penn State and Rogers getting hired basically simultaneously, and then having to rebuild the roster from scratch with 40-plus players entering the transfer portal. We really have no idea how successful Iowa State was in building a roster because they're pulling from so many different pools. They got 4, 5, 6 Power 4 transfers. They got 4, 5, 6 Division II guys and FCS guys. So, trying to understand and rate the roster right now is probably an exercise in futility, but I think we're going to start to get an idea of how this is all going to come together in spring. And I think if you had to grade it on paper, you got to feel pretty good if you're Jimmy Rogers, if you're an Iowa State fan, because I think they did better than we would have expected with the scope of what they had to do with an NIL budget that is certainly not at the top of the Big 12. And to get the players that they did, at least with their backgrounds, I think is a success. But we have no idea what it's going to look like on the field. And I think that is exciting for Iowa State fans, but it's also, it's mysterious. And mystery and uncertainty is usually not a friend in college football. So it'll be interesting to see how it all comes together, first in spring and then certainly this fall.
But a different reaction to when Matt Campbell takes the job at Penn State and leaves and takes a lot with him than what you saw, for example, when Whittingham left Utah and went to Michigan, because there's a lot like, what are you doing? You can't take our the respect for Matt Campbell. Can you try to put that in perspective?
Yeah, I mean, he is the most winning coach in Iowa State football history. He did things at Iowa State that would have seemed ludicrous to even dream about if you were an Iowa State fans, as early as 15 years ago. And if you go back to the fans that were around in the 70s and the 80s, this is incredible. And I mean, you look at what Indiana has done, going from the losingest program in the history of college football to the national championship. Iowa State is right there with them in terms of historical futility. I think Indiana has the most losses in college football history, or the worst winning percentage. And I think Iowa State is like the fourth worst. So this was a program that historically has struggled to the highest degree imaginable. And then they play in 2 Big 12 championship games. They win a Fiesta Bowl in 2020. They win 11 games last year, the first time in program history they would get double-digit wins. So I think people were not certainly happy or, not hurt that Matt left for Penn State. But I think, when they were able to take a breath and look at what he had accomplished and how he had elevated the program, I think the level of vitriol certainly turned down a little bit. And I think people were happy to look ahead to a Jimmy Rogers era that I still think that there's some optimism and momentum for.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Travis. Great to have you on today. Appreciate you. Hope you enjoyed that game. Sounds like you did. And what a win for Iowa State against Houston. That's Travis Hines, Des Moines Register, with us on 365 Sports.
Yeah, I was trying to think about the spring and what that's going to look like and kind of how we're going to cover it. And it's also just weird the way spring ball sort of lost some of its luster the last couple of years. Like, how much importance do you really put on it, right? And how much do you make of it? Because it used to be a big deal. Like, it was the one thing that you got between bowl season and fall practices starting to kind of whet your appetite outside of signing day. And now it just seems like it's taken a bit more of a back seat. But I was sitting there going through all the Big 12 schools, and I think we're going to do something here in the next couple of weeks where start to take a look at the schedules and everything. And I was trying to go through certain schools, and Iowa State's one of those. You're just like, I don't know. I don't have the slightest clue. I don't have the slightest damn clue how good they're going to be or not. I don't have the slightest clue. Wynn got a good quarterback. Seemed like they got a bunch of guys that he can rely on from his stint at Washington State. But as far as how that stacks up in the Big 12 against other teams, I have no earthly idea. And I think that's the case like Eric Morris at Oklahoma State. They'll be better. They'll certainly be better. It would be impossible to not be better. But how much better could they actually be? Like, could they come in and just win the Big 12 in year number 1 with Mestamaker and all those guys? I mean, I suppose they could. Is it likely? Probably not, but I don't know how unlikely. You know what I mean? It's completely unknown how good Iowa State and Jimmy Rodgers can be out of the gates, and same with all the other changes. And I think at least with Eric Morris, you go, okay, for us at least, there's some familiarity. So you entrust that, yeah, with Mestamaker and Caleb Hawkins and Wyatt Young and all these guys, like they're going to be pretty salty on offense right away. But I have no clue with Jimmy Rodgers and Iowa State. And more work to be done and try to educate myself. But there's only so much you can do. They got to roll the ball out there and actually go play, right?
Yep.
So it's exciting that there's this newness and this uncertainty. But Iowa State was one of those that you could pretty much just go, all right, they're going to win at least 8 games. What games are they going to lose? What are the big upsets they might pull? Might they go a step farther than that, like they did for the first time a couple of years ago? That's the part that, it's just a real mystery right now. They're going to be one of those teams that I'm going to be fascinated to kind of see where people place them. I think it'll probably be middle to low because there's no reason to give them the benefit of the doubt at this point and say, oh yeah, they'll be like 5th. I mean, why would they be 5th? But they could also then, because of that, be a team that surprises the hell out of people and win some games that maybe you just didn't think they would post Matt Campbell.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect. And Bracket Cat, Iowa State is a complete mystery this year in football.
Exactly.
The Big 12 has a handful. And so is Oklahoma State, when the mystery is not like, are they going to be any good? I think they're going to be very competitive. It's how good. How much will they, after the last couple of years of the malaise that they've had with Mike Gundy?
I'll put it to you this way. Like, I started going through Oklahoma State and I go, okay, there's a win. There's a win. I'll say that's a loss. There's a win. And you start going, okay, well, if I think they're going to be better, how much better do I think they'll be? And all of a sudden I look up and I'm like, damn, they're like 10-2. There's no way they're going to go 10-2. But is there no way that they're going to go 10-2?
Why can't they possibly? I'm not over-exaggerating. I'm just throwing it out there. Why can't they be maybe like what Indiana did in year 1 with Signetti?
I mean, that's what I'm saying is I just don't think there's any way to really, truly know. And that's going to be part of the fun of unpacking some of these schedules and giving what's legitimately going to be like my knee-jerk reactions to it with as much knowledge as I can go off of. But certainly no matter how much Phil Steele you read or how many PFF articles you read, it's just such a wild card, these college football teams year to year, because of all of the other wild cards like the portal. And that Iowa State team is going to be a real mystery until we see them roll it out there. But just even without the expectations one way or the other, to see somebody else wearing that Iowa State polo or that suit, as Matt Campbell often wore a suit, but to see somebody other than him rolling through there in Frisco for the first time is going to be really weird. And I know that's something that, as Travis pointed out, Iowa State fans are still kind of coming to terms with, because it was just a fast and furious several weeks of just nonstop losing coaches, losing players, trying to add coaches and players, and just a whirlwind. So I don't think they've quite stopped spinning just yet, but spring ball will help the adjustments to begin.
Yep, and I can't wait. We will, of course, focus in on this stretch drive in men's basketball. But, yeah, around the corner, spring drills. Who was it that we had on? It was Dave McCann about BYU's not that far away from opening up their spring camp. All right, when we come back, the 4 o'clock hour, and then also at 4:25, Kevin Flaherty from Kansas City Sports Network. He'll join us on the Big 12 and also the win by Iowa State and what's next. He'll do that with us. Craig will have Off the Radar. John McClain today at 5 and more. And this is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco between Richland Drive and Valley Mills. I went in there Saturday. Because they're closed on Sunday. I went in there on Saturday just to kind of see what they have. they're not getting all of what they need on the shelves right now, but what they have is still Padron, Cohiba, Macanudo, Ashton, Romeo and Julieta, Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, and more. One of my favorites is La Fontana. It's a very smooth. They got Churchill length, a very smooth cigar. They have those available, and they have fresh coffee beans. You could either have them grind them right there for you, or you could take them home and do it yourself. Cowboy is still the favorite there. Cheyenne and Joshua, 48-foot walk-in humidor, what you need. And let's just say old school, you might even have somebody you need to buy a gift at some point for a birthday or more who smokes pipes. And they have pipes, the accessories and more, and the tobacco for that too. Done Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out with eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
At BK Ford, we step onto the field every day for our customers. Here, legends are born and glory is earned. The spirit of competition unites us all as we stand as one. It's more than a truck, it's a passion. Get ready for the thrill, the triumphs, and the unforgettable moments that only BK Ford can deliver. Are you ready to experience better? BK Ford.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
This is 365 Sports.
Excellence in IT.
365. I can't hear myself, Brandon. I lost my. There we go. Thank you very much. 365 Sports on this Tuesday afternoon. I put in the chat room, if you have a question for Craig, you have a question for me about something historical, something you'd like to know about yourself, or questions and opinions you have that you want to feed to us and we respond to you. First one to do it will not get banned for the next week. And some of you today have been teetering. No, I'm kidding. Everyone's just giving their opinion. And retired stockbroker, I am not going to ask that question, you dirty old man. One of the thoughts about the Jerome Tang that was brought up by a couple of folks is how much they paid the staff, how some of the assistants were overpaid. And my answer is, okay, yeah, he had to ask for the money. He had to want the money. He had to ask for the guys they wanted to pay. At the same time, somebody has to approve that. And when he had the year he had, that first year, the Elite Eight, you get maybe what you don't even really need, maybe what you want, and sometimes you get more than you probably should have gotten.
So what's your point with that? Like, what are you saying that he, so what? Like I got to get where your angle to that is.
That's not my angle. That's somebody in the chat.
Right, I'm trying to understand what we're saying here, though. Like
that one of the things that he also did was, because, again, he didn't win. Number one, A, B, C, D, and F. All the other nonsense out there, I just don't see it. But his staff was getting paid a lot of money, and some K-State fans are saying that also was a part of the problem. Yes, it was. Roster management, roster development, win-loss record, and the coaching staff, if they didn't do any of that, then yes, they're getting overpaid. So was Jerome Tang.
We're stating the obvious there. I mean, when a guy gets fired, then clearly he was making the wrong decisions. And sure, somebody got paid, but I'm not going to pass the buck off to the people who paid him when he deserved to get paid and still believed in him and invested in him. He got a lot of money because he won early and excited people and got the fan base riled up, and then had some charisma attached to it. And it didn't always come across to everybody the right way. There was a lot of detractors of Jerome Tang, especially when he was winning in Mouthy early on. A lot of Kansas fans in particular, as you could imagine, didn't love that. But he won early enough and at a time where I think Kansas State felt like they could do not quite the Texas Tech thing, but similar of Jerome Tang saying, hey, there's this window where it's kind of lawless right now, and if you want to go invest in this program, let's do it, and let's take this thing to the moon. And he got the support, and then he made all the wrong decisions, clearly. So that's where the blame lies. To the point of whoever it was earlier that clearly misunderstood what we were saying, nothing about the wins or losses is up for debate. He did not win enough. That team wasn't good enough. That's why he got fired. It's all the extracurricular stuff that I can't speak to. And I know that I've seen a lot of coaches get fired, and there's Nerf Boy 67 says, just wait till you hear this. And we never hear anything. And sometimes maybe that's because things get settled, or maybe that's because that person was full of it. So I don't know where we are. And that's why I'm not focusing on the part of it. Although it's very clear some of that's out there. We don't need that, though. Like, that's the point. Now, you need that if you're K-State, you're trying to fire him for cause. And so that's where that all comes from. But as far as, like, why he got fired because they weren't good.
Yep.
He got fired because they sucked, actually. It's not that they weren't even good. They sucked. And that was pretty clear, and nobody's disagreeing with that. But, yeah, they put money into that program. They invested again this past offseason heavily. And there's no excuses. He's ultimately where the blame falls because he took that money and then didn't put a good team together, and clearly spent money on certain guys that we probably shouldn't have spent that much on, or shouldn't have spent any on, and could have spent that better elsewhere. So, yeah, the administration, I'm not going to blame the administration for giving him the money. Hell, they're trying to help him out. It's up to him to spend it wisely, and he didn't, and that's why we're in the predicament that we're in right now, talking about what he's doing for the rest of February and March versus what he would have been doing had they won a few more basketball games. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a lack of investment. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that anywhere. So if anybody's under that impression, and I know that's not what that person was saying, but yeah, it's not a lack of investment. There's plenty of investment. There's a lack of execution with that investment.
No, yeah, he wanted money. They gave him the money. K-State will back the hell out of you, and they did in football and also in men's basketball. Bracket Cat, Smokey, the crazy thing about the expanded salary pool came off the NIT run, not the Elite Eight run.
Well, I think that's when you're just like man, we still believe in you. And if you feel like this is the missing piece to unlocking more of our potential, then, I mean, that's clearly you're believing in your guy, right? You're backing your guy. You're giving him what he's asking for. And so kudos to K-State for doing that. And I remember the rallying of the alumni and all that. And the alumni answered. I mean, he got what he needed, and he didn't spend it wisely. And that's all there is to it. And that falls on Jerome Tang and nobody else. And yeah, there's not a big mystery here. The mystery that is actually out here is not why he got fired ultimately. It's just the disagreement over whether it was that or whether it was something else for some people. But yeah, just from a wins law, there's no debate on whether he deserved it or not necessarily. It's whether it was just simply this or if it was this and it was that. And that's where I'm not going to walk into territory where I have no earthly idea and speculate on people's personal lives and everything. But yeah, K-State is going to have plenty of money lined up for whoever the next head basketball coach is. I think the good news for Kansas State is as much fun as Jerome Tang provided there. What was that, 3 years ago now at this point?
21-22 was his first year as head coach.
So 3-4 years ago. As much fun as that was there for a little spurt, same thing. Kleiman goes and wins a Big 12 title. These last couple of years, have been walking backwards to some degree. And I think the exciting part for K-State is that you now got a clean slate with football and a coach that you couldn't have drawn it up any better, bringing a guy like Colin Klein back into the fold. And then on the basketball side, you're going to be able to do something. I mean, sure, you're going to have a clean slate. I don't know how familiar the next basketball coach will be, especially compared to a Colin Klein, but it's a new era of Kansas State athletics in the two biggest sports starting, whenever the next basketball coach is hired. And so, hey, Jerome Tang provided some great memories. Everybody will remember the deep tournament run and how all of that unfolded and what all came with that and the great memories. And same thing with Kleiman and what he was able to do. But it's a new era in Manhattan, and Colin Klein and insert the blank. I think we'll have plenty of support and backing to be able to go make the right decisions. And if they do, they'll have long, nice, successful careers. And if they don't, they'll be sitting next to the Jerome Tang sooner rather than later.
Here's a question in the chat room. I've been on the Power 4/Big East in men's basketball since the inception of the Power 4, so to speak, and the Big East. What is the last other conference and team to win a national championship in men's basketball? I am not going to act like I did not just go straight. The first thing I thought about was Marquette with Al McGuire in the 70s. They were an independent team. UNLV in 1990, when they had that great run under Tarkanian, they were in the Big West Conference. Louisville in 1980 and 1986, when they won it, they were in the Metro Conference. So though I did some digging on that, and I don't know of anybody since that time that wasn't a part of either a Power 4 conference and or the Big East since that time. If you can give us somebody with that, then let me know. Louisville eventually won it again in 2013. They were a part of the Big East Conference. So there you are with that. All right. Hope I answered your question. Thanks for the question. Great question. Also, this is from Stormy. No, this is from Kyle Visser. I've been getting 365 alerts all day. Can you tell us now about the new shows and the programming on 365 Sports so we get to know who they are? We now, in the morning, have John Morris, who's been the voice of Baylor athletics for a long, long time. He was on our local radio station. In fact, when Paul and I and Craig used to work there, he joined us just recently, and he now does a show in the morning. Zach Gelb, as you may know, about 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, who was a part of CBS Sports, Infinity Sports Network, he does a show from 1 o'clock until about 2:45, and he comes on right before us. Those are the ones that we know right now. If there's something else that's added, we'll let you know, but that's the background on those shows.
Yeah, I mean, just excited to have those guys being a part of the channel. We got bought by Rogue Media last year, and this is part of just that transition and them deciding the direction to go with the channels and all sorts of things like that. So the technical transition for the last couple of weeks has been interesting as we try to get into this new studio, and there's just bugs and things to work out. And so that's why we're flipping sets every other day, basically. But we will get settled in here, and I think once we do, then you're going to see other additional podcasts and things start to sprout up as well. Like I've been doing the Smoak break. I haven't been able to do it for a couple of weeks almost because of the fact that we've had all this. You guys were in. Where were y'all again?
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Right? Yep.
For some reason, I want to say LA. That's next year. But y'all were in San Francisco for a week, and then there was all sorts of construction going on and all that. But yeah, the last month or so, Zach's come on full time. He was a casualty of Westwood flipping over to whatever they're doing now, or flipping to Westwood, and glad to have him on board, given more of a national perspective on things and covering the NFL and certain things like that. And then John will have a more focused, locked in Baylor perspective, but he was on local ESPN radio here for the longest when we were as well for many years. And J-Mo's a really nice guy who does a great job covering the Bears with the play-by-play side of things. So yeah, glad to have him to give a little bit of that Baylor perspective as well for those who have been with us from the beginning. That's probably a welcome sight because a lot of those were Baylor fans at the start. But regardless, we've got just more content is the bottom line for you. So there is a method to the madness. I think still just working out a lot of the fluidity of it all. But we're getting there, and we'll be there in short order. And then I think once we do hit a stride, you'll see more stuff like more of my college football side stuff pop up on the channel as well. So glad to have you on board if you haven't already been on board. And if you haven't been on board, then please jump on because we got a lot of stuff coming your way.
I think it's Kyle that mentioned, going back to the original question about a non-Power 4 or Big East team, UConn in 2013-14 were a part of the American Athletic Conference, and that's before eventually it merged into a lot of different teams in the Big East.
Yeah, UConn, another one of those teams that got brought up in realignment with the Big 12. And I think I've been pretty much as open-minded as possible. I'm just not going to sit there and go for every little thing and go like, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. That'd be great. I do think I see some of these ideas about like, well, the Big 12 should double in size. Why? Like for what? So we can get less Houston versus Arizona in basketball. Instead, we get Houston versus, I mean, I guess Louisville would be cool, but I mean, I don't care about them playing, I don't know, Maryland or something like that. But I do think that there's going to be, I lost my train of thought. I was going somewhere with Gonzaga. Like Gonzaga was another team that it sounded cool on paper and execution, and I'm sure it'd be a hell of a lot of fun in the regular season to see them playing Arizona and playing Texas Tech and playing Houston. But like, go win some titles and then go add those teams rather than like having a bunch of contenders, get some champions and then have some contenders join the fray. Does that make sense to you? Rather than having a bunch of pretty closes. And I know there's been some teams that have won some lately, like Baylor and Kansas, and others, Tech and Houston, have gotten very, very close to winning one. But yeah, I think that's where the idea of adding is fun, but I think you got to put some banners up and then you start going, all right, now we won like 4 of the last 6 or 7 of these. Now we add UConn. Now we add Gonzaga. Like that's where I think you could have really taken off, but we'll see what the next few years hold as far as all that goes, man. I think it's going to be a really wild ride when it comes to pretty much anything that's not bolted down at this point, when it comes to how things operate and how people look at the best ways to be successful in college sports moving forward.
Yeah, the Sacramento State, North Dakota State, good for them. Hope it works out for them. I don't want to see the Big 12 get any larger. If there's something 3 or 4 or 5 years from now because of other conferences or whatever in a merger, we'll wait for that to happen.
I mean, if there's the right teams, then by all means do it. I just don't think you add for the sake of adding. So when UConn got brought up there, that's just what I have my mind on that. Is UConn and Gonzaga, a couple of really great basketball programs, men's and women's, obviously for UConn. But it took me back to what we were talking about earlier, where there's 5 national championship contenders right now in this league. And I think that's plenty to go and win a title. I don't think you need to keep adding teams to better your chances by any means. I think you got a great chance this year. So if that wasn't clear earlier, that was my point that I was trying to get across is you've got enough basketball oomph right now. It's fun to see what else could be out there eventually. But I think it's imperative for the Big 12 to not only when they start looking at the future, go, well, who can we add? Who can we add? Who can we add? I think it's far more important to say, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And winning titles now with who you have, as opposed to, well, what if we had these teams? And I just think that could be cool, but it'd be so much cooler if you had some stakes in the ground that were playing a pretty big flag for you with some backing of some real deal titles. And so we've seen teams get close. They almost went on a little bit of a run there. Yeah, this is going to be incredible to see kind of what the tournament looks like as far as who emerges on the other side, and if it is one of a handful of those teams.
Yeah, somebody brought up, I think it was Scotty B, about Villanova going back again. They were a part of the Big East in '85 when they won it with Rolly Massimino, stunning Georgetown the year after they had won it. And then, of course, Villanova with Jay Wright won it a couple of different times. They've been a part of the Big East during that time.
There wasn't a time long ago where I thought, hell, might the Big 12 just kick the can on football and say, let's go be the new Big East in basketball? But that doesn't pay the bills. But yeah, the idea of having who you have and then adding more to that would be great. But it would be a lot cooler if you could do that when Houston's won a recent title and Kansas has another one in the bag, or Tech jumps up and wins their first one, or whatever. I think that's a much bigger step forward than how many brands can we compile. Because if you got a bunch of brands, that's great. But if none of them are winning the ultimate prize, then it's kind of
and
empty.
And in 21 and 22 with Baylor and then KU winning. And then, of course, now we've seen where they've gotten some really good teams, but they haven't competed well in the tournament. You talk for a second. I got to sneeze. I got a head cold. We don't have a cough button. I'm going to try to let's take a break. Brandon Rowe, Kevin Flaherty, Kansas City Radio and Sports Network is next.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics, whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
This is 365 Sports.
365 Sports as we continue on this 4 o'clock hour. Kevin Flaherty has been on with us a couple of different times, and I say, hey, you're going to be available to help kind of digest and hash out and analyze the Big 12 because, man, is it unbelievable. Last night's an incredible game in Ames, Iowa. Kevin, thanks for your time with Craig Smoak, David Smoak, and it did not I guess it was about what we thought. A great game. We just didn't know who was going to win. Oh, we don't?
No.
Yeah, it's 4:24. I'm sorry. I thought we coming back from a break, we would have them available. Sorry about that. All right. You kind of got me going here. I'm sorry about that. Retired stockbroker said his bingo card or his whatever card is done with any new teams adding to the Big 12, which is kind of what you were talking about as we hit the break.
I mean, I'm open to further additions. I think that a lot of times stuff just gets thrown out because it's interesting. There's not necessarily anything actually to it. I saw a really great example of that. Something came across the other day of Sacramento State to the Big 12. It was something like that. And I'm like, this is just BS clickbait garbage. And sometimes you run into that with realignment, but there's also a lot of stuff that does have some potential legs to it. And we know that anybody that follows it closely is that there is a point here in the next few years where contracts come up, and in the lead up to that, there is going to be conversations, and I'm sure there's conversations ongoing right now. I bet you anything that you want to bet that there is every single Big 12 team somewhere you can find an athletic department that they've got a person that's talking to somebody about, well, what would it take to get into this situation, or what would it look like if we did that? Because if you're not doing that, you're not exploring all of your options. You're doing your school a disservice, especially when this is like as much of a cutthroat industry as it's become. And there's literally lifeboats that we're imagining people are jumping on and off to try to remain relevant. And that's why you see Sacramento State trying to raise their stock before it's too late to not have that opportunity ever again, and North Dakota State and so on and so forth. So I think there's going to be a lot of that conversation, and there's going to be some validity to some of it. I do think some of it is nonsense, but people are smart enough to see through that often enough. And when it comes to the Big 12, clearly they've not been shy about, hey, if it makes business sense, then we'll pursue it. I'm just not a fan personally, and I don't understand the business of let's add like 10 teams and, okay, you have geography, but what do you really have outside of that? And so I think moving forward for them, they should be selective, and it should make sense. It should be additive. And I don't know how many programs out there are additive. I don't know if they'll have an opportunity to go and take anything from the ACC when all's said and done. I mean, after all, the ACC, they didn't have a better overall football year. Like, I would take the Big 12's top half versus their top half, but they had the best team standing by the end of it. They had a team that won some playoff games. And so I think there's a lot of work. My whole point with that was, it's fun to just add more toys, but like do the best with the toys you got to play with, like in front of you, right? And I know that's probably not a great example, but you got some really good toys in basketball right now, Britt, you or Mark. Focus on those. Hopefully those break through and win you titles, because that's far more important to the structure, the foundation, the success of everybody than just adding more toys for the sake of adding.
Stormy Cyclone with a super chat. Thank you for your coverage of ISU today. Cyclone fans thought the world was going to end a mere 2 months ago. You're welcome.
I bet. Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. Deserved. What an incredible win. What an incredible atmosphere. And I now don't have a real strong bucket list I adhere to, even though I'm in sports and most people in my position kind of have that bucket list of places you want to go. But I do have one that I kind of attend to from time to time, and Hilton Coliseum's found its way on that list of places that I want to go and check out before all is said and done. I want to go see a big-time basketball game there.
It was a hell of a trip when I got a chance to go there.
I've never heard otherwise from anybody that's been there, so sounds like it was legendary last night. It was an incredible win, and they are one of those handful of teams that you've already got a pretty good toy. Let's go see how far the Cyclones can take it, along with a handful of others, Houston, Kansas, of course, as well, among Arizona. Who am I forgetting? Tech,
Iowa State, Kansas, Arizona, and Houston.
Yeah.
Those are the 5 alphas right now and appear to be. Kevin Flaherty, Kansas City Sports Network, joins us on 365 Sports, covers the entire conference, but resides right there in that big, beautiful city. Kevin, your thoughts, Iowa State and Houston, another banger in the Big 12 last night.
What a response from Iowa State. I think, you guys were talking about Hilton kind of being a bucket list trip. I've been to Hilton when Kansas has played there. I've been to Hilton when Texas played there, when I covered Texas. And it's such a tremendous atmosphere. And it's one of those few places in college basketball that I feel like the fans can go get you a win. with the way that they respond, with the way that they can almost will a run out of their basketball team. And so they get down 10 points. You feel like, man, what a great response from Houston. Houston's going to land a game basically at one of the toughest places to get one in the Big 12. And then Iowa State responds. I love the way that team works. I love the way that team is greater than the sum of their parts, and then what an unbelievable pass from Jefferson and a quick shot from Hines to get that thing up, and then obviously playing the defense to get the win down the stretch too.
Kevin, I think you probably heard us mention those handful of top contenders. How do you sort of size up that handful, Houston, Arizona, Texas Tech, Kansas, Iowa State, as far as the big picture and the ceiling on those handful of teams? Do you think they're all natty contenders, or how do you view it?
I do, and I told Smokey that a week ago, that I thought all 5 of those teams are national title contenders. The funny thing is, one of these teams is going to get 5th in the Big 12, get the 5th seed at the Big 12 tournament, and probably be no lower than a 3 in the NCAA tournament. And that's how stacked this group is. I think when you start to size up that conference race too, guys, all of them except for one team plays at least 2 of the others, and that one team is Texas Tech. Texas Tech has a game at Iowa State. That's their only matchup remaining with the other 4 top teams. Arizona actually has 3 games against other top teams. Everybody else has 2. And so that's going to make for just a wild last few weeks in the conference, heading into what could be one of the best conference tournaments in recent memory.
Does anybody have 3 higher quality wins than Tech with Duke, Houston, and Arizona?
No, I don't think so. And I think Tech is a team that can beat anybody on any given night. It really depends on the level of defense that they're playing. And the funny thing is, Tech would have a 4th win to add to that in Kansas, right? Except that Christian Anderson didn't play in that game, had the illness. And so you had a really close game anyway. And then Darren Peterson did his Darren Peterson thing down the stretch, scored 6 points on Kansas's final 2 possessions, and you're able to sneak out a win in Lubbock, in one of the tougher places to win in the Big 12 as well. And so I think when you look at the breadth of the top wins that Texas Tech has, I don't think anybody has 3 that are as good as what Texas Tech has in terms of having 3 wins over teams that, quite frankly, could all be number 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament in March.
Kevin, what is your take on the Darren Peterson? Darren Peterson, is he injured? Is he not? The whole debate. I don't think I need to further explain. You've heard plenty of it throughout the last few months, but how do you just sort of view all of that and unpack it?
I think it's been frustrating for a lot of people. I think it's been poorly explained quite a bit. And I think that's been one of the issues with it. And so when you're pulling him for this thing and you're saying it's for this, and then you hear maybe something else is happening, and then there's the illness, and the illness thing was kind of explained by Bill Self a little bit in terms of the reason he didn't show up on the injury report was we were pretty sure he was going to play. But Self also said previously, after the game that he missed because of the illness after that Arizona game, he said basically, well, we thought he was 50-50 to play. And if he was 50-50 to play, he's supposed to show up on the injury report. And he didn't show up on the injury report. And then you have the visuals of him talking before the game and, talking with coaches and being out there for warmups and kind of laughing or smiling a little bit. And so I don't think that it's as sinister as maybe some national people have made it out to be. I really believe there were cramp problems. He had some of those in high school. Cramp problems can lead to quad problems, which can lead to cramp problems. And I think they've been trying some sort of long-term solutions to try and get rid of those cramps. I think, some of the cramps that he had against BYU were a result of he had a pretty bad ankle sprain against Colorado. If you saw that injury, there was nothing fake about it. His ankle touched the court while he was still standing. And he came back out after that injury and played for the rest of the Colorado game after he was removed for a little bit. And so I think that's the tough thing for a lot of people to understand or reconcile is if he was going to shut it down, he would just shut it down, right? And there aren't a whole lot of players that go through practice only to say, nah, I'm good once you get to games. I've never heard of a player like that. And so I do think that there's legitimacy to, hey, there have been cramp issues. There have been some different things. The illness was absolutely real. A lot of people I know, and my wife is a nurse, actually, were dealing with nasty flu stuff that lasted around a week or around that time. But I do think that it was something where maybe things weren't quite as transparent, or you could sense Bill Self's frustration with it. And because of a lot of those things, maybe a lack of explanation in some cases, maybe this thing grew to be a little bit bigger than it actually was. But I don't want to say I'd be surprised, because at this point we've seen kind of all of it. But I would tend to think that from this point on, Darren Peterson is going to be a guy that's going to play a lot of minutes, and barring any other setbacks, you would hope that there wouldn't be anything that would keep him off the court for the last month and a half or so of the season.
Do you think there's anything at all, even a smidgen, true about the fact he does not love basketball?
No, I don't think that's it at all. And I think when you heard a lot of this stuff out of the offseason, and I talked to his high school coach quite a bit before he came to Kansas in the first place, this is a guy who really puts in the work. And, he was somebody that when he got to Kansas after workouts, one of the things that they talked about, remember, Kansas has a new assistant coach this year, a former Kansas legend in Jacques Vaughn. And the word was after practices, after workouts, other guys are kind of walking off, and Darren Peterson's staying out on the court with Jacques Vaughn to get extra work in, to try and understand different things. And one of the things that Coach Bernardi down there at Prolific Prep had told me was this guy wants to be the greatest basketball player of all time. I'm not saying that there haven't been setbacks, and I think, has there been some stuff where he's been 80 or 90%, and maybe either he's wanted to go and other people have said no, or people have wanted him to go and he said, I don't really feel like I can do it. Yeah, but I don't think a love of basketball is really the issue, to be quite frank with you. I think that he is somebody that does enjoy basketball. I think the other thing that's kind of interesting is just behind the scenes a little bit, he seems to really be beloved kind of by his Kansas teammates and by the coaches. And I don't think that he would be in that spot if he didn't love basketball, and if you could sense that from him.
Kevin, you cover the Big 12, obviously got a bit of a closer lens on Kansas, but you cover the Jayhawk State as well. And just in the midst of all that, you got a good seat to see all the reaction to this Jerome Tang firing. Few days, and I was just curious your thoughts, just from every angle, on kind of what you think about how that unfolded and what's next for K-State.
Yeah, I was actually at a Kansas high school football coaches convention when that came out, and there was some buzz around the room and people saying, "Oh man, did you see Tang got fired?" And there was a lot of, well, it made sense, it was going to happen. And then once it started to come out, this thing's for cause, and the statement came out from Gene Taylor saying, hey, it's related to the embarrassing Kansas State part of the contract. That's when you started to see a lot of these coaches start to say, can they do that? That doesn't seem right. And all of a sudden, I think it's interesting, because 2 weeks ago or a week ago, you had PTI and different people talking about Jerome Tang's comments that he was making about the team and having little segments involving it. Well, all of a sudden, with K-State saying, hey, we're doing this for cause, doesn't it feel like a lot of the public lens has kind of gone a little bit back to Jerome Tang's side? A lot of people saying, hey, you didn't like this guy because he didn't win basketball games. It wasn't because of this other stuff. You should pay that guy his money. And I think there are a lot of different angles here. But guys, with me being at Kansas, one of the things that I saw was Kansas tried to withhold money from David Beatty, right? And say, hey, this thing is for cause. We have these reasons to do this. It wound up going into discovery, and that was very embarrassing for the Kansas athletic department. They lost the public opinion part of that. Ultimately was probably a big part of what got Jeff Long, out of there, when you look at the way that all that stuff sort of went down. Don't forget, Kansas State just hired a new football coach in Colin Klein. And I'm not saying this will be the case, but I am saying you want to arbitrate this thing probably from both sides. Nobody wants to get embarrassed in discovery, But Kansas State's athletic department is a lot bigger than one person. And when you have so many different people, discovery can turn up stuff that you aren't planning on. And I think if it turns up something like, hey, Gene Taylor, who has said all along, I was behind Chris Kleiman, I didn't even talk to Colin Klein until after Coach Kleiman told me he wanted to retire. You go into discovery, what happens when it shows that, hey, maybe you called Colin Klein after a loss in September or October or something like that? I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying that's one of the things that will be interesting to see is how much attitude everybody actually has for a fight here. Because if Jerome Tang digs his heels in and this thing gets to discovery, Kansas State could have some dirty laundry aired out just because, not saying that K-State has any more than anybody else, but every athletic department has dirty laundry because you just can't make sure that many people, nobody does anything embarrassing.
Yeah, and did you see the initial comments from Tom Mars, who now has hired?
Yeah, sure.
They think they're going to be embarrassed. I thought that was a little bit harsh on his end, but to me, either he was trying to scare the hell out of Kansas State or he knows something that maybe we don't know yet.
Yeah, and if you're a head coach, aren't you in a great spot to maybe know where some of the bodies are buried in an athletic department?
Yeah.
And so I think all of that factors into this. And so, Jerome Tang, K-State has a very difficult decision to make here because I'm not sure firing him for cause wasn't the right decision if you felt like, hey, we can get Jerome Tang to arbitration, we can get this thing to be $12 million instead of 18.7. Then it's a good move, right? Even if you have to pay some lawyers' fees and things of that nature, you saved some money. You saved Tang's buyout, I think, on May 1st goes down to 15. And so maybe you save the $3 million you would have saved from having to retain him for another year. And so there are reasons to do it. At the same time, if you're looking over at the boxer across the ring and you're like, man, this guy doesn't seem to care that I've hit him with 350 body shots and a bunch of shots to the head, you have to size up how ready and willing you are for that fight. And so you don't know how much of it is posturing or if Jerome Tang and Tom Mars, who of course has been in some really high profile battles, you don't know if they're gearing up and they're saying, hey, the heck with it. We're fine with Jerome Tang not coaching over the next year. You're not going to want the fight that we're going to bring to you. And if this thing does go to discovery, I think there are going to be a lot of people sort of sitting forward in their chairs to see what that uncovers.
Kevin, before we let you go here, Kansas has Oklahoma State and Cincinnati, but then next week, big Monday, you got Houston, and then you got Arizona all in the same week. That's going to be fun, isn't it? This Big 12, we kind of thought that it would be great when all these new teams joined, the Arizonas, and how that would work out. But just your impressions from the last couple seasons on how this is sort of all unfolded, and then having the double whammy of a week like hosting Houston, then turning around having to go to Tucson.
Yeah, it's a little weird because the Big 12 has been the best conference in KenPom for a long period of time, excepting maybe a year here or there. And the reason why was the conference-wide depth, right? You felt like, hey, on certain games, number 9 or number 10 can take down number 1 or number 2. And now that the Big 12 has expanded, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I don't think that the very worst teams in the conference can compete with the top of the conference. But what you did do by adding Houston a few years ago, adding Arizona more recently, is all of a sudden you're in a spot where the top of the conference is just absolutely murderer's row. And there is a separation between those top teams, but there's more of them than anywhere else. To lack maybe not without having a better explanation, it reminds me a little bit of sort of the old Big East in the 80s when you had, sort of those 4 or 5 teams that all felt like they could compete for a national title and did over a period of time. You had, Georgetown playing for national titles, Syracuse, Villanova won a national title in that range. I think it's somewhat like that. Maybe the ACC in the late 90s, early 2000s with Carolina, Duke, et cetera. Maryland won a title in there as well. And so what you're seeing right now is the cream truly rising to the top. And I think with this group, it feels like everybody's schedule, you can sort of circle a week or two stretch where you're playing 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 of the top 4, 5 or 6 teams in the league. And that's a stretch that you have to survive if you're going to have a chance to compete for the conference title. I think any one of these teams could win the title. It's possible the title winner will have 3 losses. I think probably more than likely. There's a chance that you could have a several-way tie with 4 losses, and that just goes to speak how good all of those top teams are and how good they've been at beating each other, home and away.
This is a quote from Kevin Young, the BYU head coach. Kevin, and we'll leave it with this. I think, talking about Richie Saunders and the injury, the ACL, I think he's everything that's great about college basketball. The amount of people, including opposing coaches within our league, that have reached out to me about Richie in the last couple of days, I think says a lot about him. He's a BYU legend and forever and always will be. That was a stunning injury. BYU still has, obviously, DeBansa, and Rob Wright played great when he was on the road against his former team and has been very good. But how much of a dagger is that for them?
Oh, that's just killer. And I think when you look at that BYU team anyway, they had some injuries, attrition to kind of their depth on the fringes. And so they weren't a very deep team even without Richie Saunders' injury. And so when that happens, you look at the game at Allen Fieldhouse, right? And Darren Peterson goes off and Kansas gets up 18-20, whatever it was. And then when Peterson went out and BYU made that thing a game late, it wasn't because DeBansa was playing really well. It was because Richie Saunders was absolutely indefensible. And so Rob Wright is a terrific player. I know you guys got to see him in person down there in Waco, and he's a really good player. It puts more onus on he and DeBansa. I'm not saying they can't upset somebody in the NCAA tournament, but I do think that BYU went from a team that potentially could get to that, Elite Eight, maybe even a Final Four, depending on the bounces and the matchups, to a team that probably isn't going to get out of that second weekend. And that's heartbreaking to see, because obviously heading into the season, a lot of us felt like BYU was a top 10 team, had a chance to win a national title, and just one of those things sometimes that you wind up having injuries. And in Richie Saunders' case, obviously he's been at BYU, he's developed at BYU into the player that we've watched him play. And you really hate seeing that for anybody, but especially somebody that's kind of been a program talisman like he has.
Kevin, good stuff, man. Appreciate you. Are you staying around where you are the rest of the week? You got a game you're going to in particular, traveling at all?
No, not traveling. Staying around here at Kansas City area and everything. Looking, I believe, friend of the show, Paul Catalina, is actually coming up here for the Houston game
on Monday.
Yeah.
So should be a good time. I'm looking forward to seeing him up here.
All right, Kevin. Thank you very much, Kevin Flaherty, Kansas City Sports Network, with us, and I think he's going to join us every week leading through the final weeks of the regular season into the tournament as well, with his knowledge of covering men's basketball. When we come back, Craig Smoak and Off the Radar, 5 o'clock, Hall of Famer, or just after that, John McClain. We have quizzes today and poll results from Andrew Valet. This is 365 Sports.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. Special is subject to credit approval and membership eligibility. Visit GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Welcome back into 365 Sports. Time for a little Off the Radar before we get to John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, who we'll talk some NFL with, but I'm sure he's got some opinions on like Baylor athletics, something or another. By the way, do you want to we have Doug McNamee coming back here in a couple weeks?
A couple weeks. Baylor AD, he sent out a note about a much more fan-friendly environment, which is something he talked about in his opening press conference. But yeah, in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks from today, in fact.
Yeah, well, it was good to have him on the last time we did. And for those that weren't with us a couple years ago, we used to have Mac Rhodes on regularly, and it was good until we almost ran out. We almost had him too much because then there wasn't enough to talk about sometimes because he was on like every single week, which was a good problem. And then we didn't have him like for a year and a half at all. And so it's kind of good to get back into the swing of things, just to occasionally jump in and visit with an AD. And I think Baylor is an interesting story entering next season in large part because of the fact they've got a new AD and what that could mean for Dave Aranda and so on and so forth. But looking forward to having Doug McNamee on again here in a couple of weeks. But it's a weird time right now as we're transitioning out of the football season into full-fledged basketball. And of course, there's the Olympics on as well. And I just want to start things off with this is a very much just a random grab bag of stuff because that's just sort of where we are in the sports calendar right now. But the Olympic medal count from Mlan Cortina as of right now, and no spoilers in this segment for those that like go home and watch the Olympics or something like that after work, but Norway in the lead, 31 total medals for the Norwegians, 14 golds is the most of any country, 8 silvers, 9 bronzes. So 14, 8, and 9 for the Norwegians. Italy, the home country, in second place with 24 total medals. They've got 9 gold. That's the second most, 4 silver, and 11 bronze. And they're on the last step of the podium as of right now, the Americans, 21 total medals. So some work to do, 6 gold, 10 silver, 5 bronze. Then you've got the Netherlands, Germany, France, Austria, Swedes, Swiss, and then the Japanese. So the Europeans taking up nearly all of the top 10 except for the United States. And then you've got Japan there at number 10 to round out that list. But I don't have anything specific other than I just am not that into the Winter Olympics this year. I don't really know why. I have found, though, that I think curling is my favorite winter sport now. I feel like I love playing shuffleboard, and it's on ice shuffleboard for the most part, and the strategy involved and kind of the touch that you need. It's just, I don't know. The figure skating's doing nothing for me. The skiing's kind of fun here and there, depending on what event. Snowboarding's cool, but Have you watched much? I'm asking the guy who watches the least amount of TV of anybody I've ever met, but have you watched much of the Olympics?
Well, I saw the girl from Plano. I hope I'm not giving you this. The figure skater, she was bawling at the end. I thought it was because she had a great performance, but I think she finished well down the list. So it has been hit and miss for me. There was a day last week, and I don't remember what night it was, where I said, I'm going to watch and sit here and watch and get caught up, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. When do the women play Canada in hockey?
Oh, that is at the end of the week. That is, I believe it's on. Well, where's Andrew? Where's our hockey expert?
Yeah, he's in there. He's in. Yeah,
we actually need him. But no, gold medal games on Friday, I believe. But let me double check on that. No, that's Thursday. Okay, that's Thursday. Coming up will be the USA Canada gold medal game for the women.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I'll watch that or not. A lot of it depends on the time. Whenever it's overseas, which is, almost always, very rarely in, North American time zone, I haven't watched it much, Craig.
Okay, so that's a long way to say you haven't watched much of it.
Last night, I watched the massive jumps. And it was snowing, and it was awesome, and that was pretty cool. But no, I haven't watched much.
Well, I just wanted to update the medal count, and then obviously U.S. men's hockey also continuing on. Garrett, what do they got? The Swedes next? I don't think he's listening either.
Yeah, he is.
Okay,
he better be.
Yeah, I think it's the
he gets
Swedes.
paid to listen.
And so I knew I could rely on Garrett with the hockey stuff there. But yeah, I got men's and women's hockey still ongoing, and there's some stuff. But yeah, I don't know what it is, man. I'd love to hear from those in chat on if you were at a 10 watching the Olympics 4 years ago, 2 years ago, are you still at a 10, or are you more like a 6.5? Because I feel like I'm more of like a 6.5. Although I'm telling you, curling is, I think now, outside of hockey's great, but outside of hockey, curling's quickly rising up the charts for me of the best winter sports because of the shuffleboard strategy aspect of it all. So I've probably watched that the most outside of hockey, I would think.
No, the curling thing, I've heard a lot. Paul's mentioned that too. Didn't they have some kind of
there's a
cheating
controversy?
scandal?
Yeah, the Canadians were cheating.
Yeah.
The Canucks.
I tell you what I do love, and this is from my age going way back to Jean-Claude Keely and Franz Klammer and names like the downhill, the men's giant slalom or whatever it is. I think that's awesome how fast those guys are going down the hill. And I have watched a couple of moments of that.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to run down the schedule because some of it's pre-recorded. I don't want to end up spoiling anything for everybody, but there will be a bunch of events on late into the night like there has been for the past couple of weeks, and it'll start to close out here. Maybe I'll have more of a recap as we start to get down to the final few days on Thursday with this segment. But yeah, just was gauging your curiosity, engaging the chats as well. I just don't feel like there's a lot of that patriotism flowing like I typically feel around Olympics time, and it could just be that the U.S. isn't dominating like we typically expect them to be. That definitely is part. I think there's a lack of star power too. I don't think there's like a lot of just well-known winter athletes. There's no Shaun White that like everybody knows him because he's crossed over into the mainstream, or a lot of the gymnasts always end up becoming super popular. I don't get that sense. So maybe that's playing a part in it as well. But Chad, if you want to comment on that, go ahead. But yeah, Norway in front, 31 total medals, Italy 24, United States 21, and then a drop off to number 4 Netherlands with 13 total medals to round out the 4 there. Meanwhile, I talked about last week, the Super Bowl had its second best ratings, although it was down compared to last year's record ratings. And there was a lot of talk about just the overall number and does it mean anything moving forward, and a lot of attention on the halftime show. Well, there's another big event that followed up the NFL Super Bowl, and that was the NBA All-Star Game, which got a lot less fanfare, and I watched a lot less of that than I did of the NFL's Super Bowl offering, that's for sure. Did not have a lot of interest in this, haven't had a lot of interest in the All-Star Game for quite a while now, and my basketball interest as an all-time low thanks to Luka Doncic. I'm still just kind of recovering from all of that. But good news for the NBA, as we do talk TV ratings occasionally on here, but they had record numbers for the All-Star Game, best viewing in quite some time for the NBA's All-Star Game, as they did more of a world versus U.S. format. And there was a lot of talk leading into this game. You saw guys like Kevin Durant kind of going back and forth saying, well, we'll play hard. The international team, are they going to play hard? Because people are talking about how everybody loafs in the All-Star Game. It's nothing but alley-oops and loafing and this and that. And Kevin Durant's throwing shots at Jokic and Doncic about how they are just kind of fooling around. And then you had on the other side, the Americans are the ones that aren't playing hard. Well, I don't know if all that back and forth led into any extra interest or not, but 8.8 million viewers for the NBA All-Star Game is a really good number, highest since 2011 for the All-Star Game, featuring the new USA versus the World format, peaked at nearly 10 million viewers. It was watched across NBC, Peacock, and Telemundo. Largest audience, as I said, since 2011. And looks like it topped the 25 edition by 87%. So we'll see. I think that was unofficial last I saw. But, yeah, really healthy number. Do you think it's the USA versus the world, or do you think it's on NBC so there's more people watching it because it's been on Turner Networks or – because that comes into play too. And I think that's what I immediately saw was, well, it's on NBC. You got the bigger network, but I know you didn't watch any of it. I know that for sure.
I didn't watch any of it. I would see a glimpse or something would pop up, maybe on Twitter. I think
the NBC move had a lot to do with it.
There's a lot of the stuff, all-star games in many of the sports. Baseball still kind of, again, the home run derby is something I used to watch. I don't watch that anymore. It's just they've changed it up so much. Just play the damn game. But I get why they have all these competitions, but I didn't watch a second. And it wasn't because of anything. I just, I don't even, for example, I don't even know how they keep score sometimes. Well,
the ball goes in the bucket.
Yeah, I don't
sometimes
think
it's worth 2.
I don't know
sometimes
if
it's
that's
worth
always,
3.
I don't know if
sometimes
that's
it's worth
the way,
1.
I'm not sure that's the way they do it anymore.
Well, I mean, at this point, I would not put it past them to do something like, instead of this being a 3-pointer, we're going to have 6-pointers from half court. They're trying everything to make it interesting. So that was good news for the NBA, was that they did have higher numbers for their All-Star game. But I think the platform certainly helped. There you go with that. So I don't know I guess maybe if there's a big Olympic rating, we'll talk about that. But there's not anything really for the foreseeable future with baseball season around the corner. We'll have some of that. But I'll close it out with this, as we do want to get to John McClain, a surprise in the world of mixed martial arts, as fans from about 10 years ago got really exciting news for fans from 10 years ago, as Ronda Rousey is coming out of retirement, and she will be squaring off with the second most famous female MMA fighter, I think, at least for a brief stretch, if not still, Gina Carano. Those two announced that they are going to meet on May 16th for a super fight on Netflix in a event that is being promoted by Jake Paul. So Jake Paul's promoted MMA card on Netflix will have Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano, and I would imagine those two are getting huge paydays to be a part of that. But Rousey, 39, hasn't fought since 2016 when she got beat up by Amanda Nunes. Carano's 43. She hasn't fought since 2009 after losing to Chris Cyborg, which Cyborg back in the day was just crazy stuff. But, two of the most popular female fighters of all time. And back in that late 2000s period, I mean, both these women were exceptionally popular, and Rousey for a bit longer. But, I think you've seen with boxing the amount of people that tune in for just the freak show or the what if and the wonder of what's this going to look like. So a dream fight that people probably thought you would never, ever see, but I guess nothing's off the table anymore when you got Netflix money and guys like Jake Paul to promote these fights. So Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano on Netflix on May 16th, 39 versus 43. So we'll see how ready to go they are. But that's a kind of out of nowhere and certainly off the radar announcement. And I will be curious, and I will probably end up watching that because I would have definitely watched it back in like 2010 or whatever. Lost a bit of its luster, and both women much older now at this point and have gone into Hollywood and done wrestling in Rousey's case. But they got my curiosity, I'll say that.
Yeah, and I remember back when I don't know when I started watching UFC about 15, 18 years ago. You're the one that got me interested in that. That's when you had the guy with the mohawk. What was his name? That was so
Chuck Liddell.
Chuck Liddell, among some others. But Ronda Rousey and Carano, that'll bring some eyeballs.
No,
to
that'll get a
event.
huge number, I'm sure. I don't know if it'll match up some of the boxing efforts that Jake Paul's been a part of, or Netflix in general. But that'll be. I mean, that's definitely a fantasy matchup for a lot of MMA fans. It's just taking a lot longer to have it occur than you would have hoped for, and that's definitely interesting. And like I said, definitely off the radar. So there you go. There's a few sports stories out there.
All right, Craig. Thank you very much, Brandon. Let's break here. Come back with John McClain. He'll join us. Let's see, Paul, Craig, and I also received a link from him on the PVIL documentary that he's been promoting. I have not watched it yet, but I want to because now I have time to. He's next. John McClain. This is 365 Sports.
Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB, your bank for life, takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
UBO Business Services. We are a studies-based service organization that is the best in Texas when it comes to copiers, printers, and scanners. The way we quantify that is through a company used by millions of corporations called Net Promoter Score. What Net Promoter Score looks at are your Google reviews. We have a better Net Promoter Score than H-E-B with a 65 and Ritz-Carlton Hotels with a 70. According to Net Promoter Score, if you're a 70 or above, you're considered world-class in customer service. UBO Business Services is an 86 when it comes to Net Promoter Score. You can find us at ubeo.com, ubeo.com.
The time is now. It's time for a new ride at the New Year New Ride Savings Event at Richard Carr, GMC Buick Cadillac.
Sierra blends the premium interior with the muscle of a true work truck, built to handle the job and look good doing it. It's why GMC Sierra is the best truck on the road. During our New Year New Ride sales event, pull up and save your Sierra. One home pay for just $41,390.
Call now, get here now, or log on now for the New Year New Ride Savings Event at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they got the truck for you.
This is 365 Sports.
365 Sports rolling into the 5 o'clock hour. The Hall of Famer himself and John McClain joins. Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Paul Catalina should be back with us either tomorrow or Thursday. He's been doing a lot of work behind the scenes with others on our brand new studio and getting all of it tweaked. John, thank you very much for your time. Thank you, sir. I got the link, the email. We all did when it comes to the PVIL autobiography, or the documentary. What has been the reaction to such a long and fruitful journey to get to that point?
I'll give you an example, David. Tony Wiley, who you know, longtime PR guy with the Texans who left for Washington, now has a company up in D.C. Sent me a text today. He said, I saw the documentary. I think it's outstanding. I'm going to tell everybody I know. I thanked him and said, please do. And it's easily attainable right now. MadDogEntertainment.tv. You can rent it for $4.50. So we're hoping promotions like you guys have been so generous to supporting, that you guys will help us continue to spread the word, because it's historical. It's about Texas high school football. It's about politics. It's also about some of those guys went on to be some of the greatest players in NFL history, like Joe Green and Kenny Houston and Emmett Thomas and Charlie Taylor and Winston Hill. And it was an honor to get to learn about the Prairie View Interscholastic League and to interview so many people. And we have a lot of plans for this documentary beyond what is called the Final Cut, which is on MadDogEntertainment.tv. We'll have a director's cut. At one point, we're going to get all our interviews. Like Jimmy Johnson was great when we went to Key Largo. But in a documentary that's limited to like 90 minutes, you can't use a lot. So we're going to go in and like the best of Jimmy Johnson, best of Joe Green, where people want to know historical stuff. And Jimmy talked about a lot of things. They're going to be able to go on MadDogEntertainment.tv and see all this as well. But it's been, as I've said a million times, the labor of love. And I grew up right there in Waco with Moore High School. Turned out they won 3 state championships with Lewis Richardson, who went on to be the first black football coach in the Big Ten, stayed there for years, helping other black coaches adjust to the Big Ten in every sport. His son, Lewis Richardson Jr., was a great quarterback prospect, and it's been an honor to record the history of our sport. And in the documentary, there's a scene with Super Bill Bradley from Palestine, who's white, and Jerry Levias from Beaumont, who's black. And Jerry was the first black athlete to get a scholarship in the Southwest Conference. John Mack Westbrook at Baylor was the first black player to play, but he didn't get a scholarship. And Jerry and Bill Bradley tell great stories going back to high school before Bill went to UT and Jerry went to SMU. And in everyone we've seen, people laugh their tails off. So we've tried to add more from these two. And it was so exciting to be part of it. Thank you guys very much for helping me promote it. When I left Waco and the Tribune Herald to come to the Houston Chronicle in 1976, never in my wildest dream did I ever imagine anything like this. At that point, I was covering hockey for the first time, and I was just trying to learn something about the sport. By the time I figured it out, they folded the original Houston Aeros, and I moved to the Oilers. But it has been a dream come true to work on a production like this.
Yeah, John, I mean, like Smokey said, thank you for sending that on over, and more than happy to promote it. And I think you said a really important thing there about like recording this history so that people from future generations have the ability to go back and listen to all these very influential people. So that's good work that you're doing there. And we can't wait to see how all this continues to unfold. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much. We had a showing today at Katy High School.
Oh, cool.
And a lot of high schools around Houston have asked us to show it to them. The athletic director of Houston Independent School District wants to get together at Delmar Fieldhouse, which is where they play basketball games, and have students come from every school. And we think it's important that young people, black and white, people that don't know about the Prairie View Interscholastic League, which operated from 1920, 1970, how they operated and how they played, who a lot of those people became, not just great players. Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub, he played baseball at PVIL in Dallas. Barbara Jordan was another one, and there are a lot of famous Texans who went to high school in the PVIL.
By the way, when you look at what you've done with this, the history and tradition, as Craig said, to document it too, is unbelievable. What Mad Dog Entertainment, I know there's a story behind the name of Mad Dog Entertainment that does directly go back to you.
Well, somewhere around the mid-'80s, I got the nickname General. I've never used that for myself. People publicly say, "You the general," I say, "I'm John McClain." But it's gotten to a point where when I do talk shows down here, they just call me the general, general this, general that. And I had a general call me one time and said, "What military branch did you serve in?" I said, "Sir, I'm not a general. That's my nickname." And he kind of chewed me out. And I said, "I have never referred to myself as that." So when we were going to interview Jimmy Johnson in Key Largo, Florida, about his role in our documentary, and I was writing with the director, Mark Burns, and we have common interests, especially with the Beatles. We both grew up diehard Beatles fans, him in Houston and me in Waco. And he asked me how I got the nickname the General, and I told him, I said, "Well, when I grew up in Waco, my nickname was Mad Dog." And I said, "When I'm with friends of mine there, that's what they still call me." And so nothing else was said about it. And when they had to have a production company name for this project, they came up with Mad Dog Entertainment.tv. And I said, "Well, that's interesting that y'all came up with that." I said, "Where'd y'all come up with that?" And the director said, "Well, because of your nickname." I thought it was pretty cool. We looked it up. There were no other Mad Dog Productions, Mad Dog Entertainment. So that's what we're called, and that's how it came about.
Who's your favorite Beatle?
Oh, Paul McCartney. I was asked a bunch of times that if I could have dinner with anybody in the world living, who would it be? And I instantly Paul McCartney, because he played such a key role in my development from the time I was in Crestview Elementary, Tennyson Junior High, and Richfield High School, and dabbled in local bands. And I had a paper route so I could buy a sound system, and I would turn it up really loud where nobody could hear me sing, because we had really good guitar players. We had a bass player, Albert Pena. Albert, was the leader of the last band I was in, and we put on a show. And we played some places around Central Texas and had a blast. And so to this day, anytime I see something on McCartney, see a lot of videos, I retweet them, especially all those old videos like Ed Sullivan and all the appearances they made in the early 60s when I was mesmerized in the TV, just like every other kid was. But I never did scream for the Beatles, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how these movies go that they're doing. It's going to be really cool. So it sounds like a massive project with the various, the one movie per guy. I think it's going to be really cool. But I did want to ask you about the NFL. There's not a ton going on, I mean, post-Super Bowl, but what were your thoughts on the Dolphins cleaning house, Bradley Chubb, Tyreek Hill? I mean, not a surprise necessarily, but just kind of what do you think about Tyreek Hill's stock at this point and all the movement down in South Beach going on right now?
They cleared up $66 million under the cap, Craig. Mm-hmm. And Hill blew out his knee last year. He's got more baggage than Mayflower. And they're talking about him going back to the Chiefs. Are you kidding me? They want to put him with those young receivers who've been in trouble, like Rashee Rice, who's been in a lot of trouble. I wouldn't want him in there influencing those kids. There's a good chance when he comes back, he's going to be suspended for his latest transgressions. And I'm sure he'd love to go back. Money should not be an issue with him. He should tell Andy Reid, "Look, I'll take the minimum. I'll take $1 million and finish my career there." And I thought it was interesting. Kenneth Walker III, the MVP of the Super Bowl, he's not going to get tagged. That doesn't mean the guy's gone. They're going to try to work out a contract with him. And with their other running back, Zach Charbonneau, coming off a torn ACL and won't be ready for the start of the season, they better make sure they re-sign Walker. In the whole scheme of things, running backs are still not expensive. Yeah. Nothing like the other positions. So if you're going to play a guy like Walker, who's been a terrific player, he's not a blocker and he's not a receiver. He's just a runner. They got to do it. I can't imagine they want to start over. And the two Super Bowl teams are in really good shape when it comes to the salary cap. That's kind of scary. Their management's done a tremendous job. And I think if you're Miami, you know, they have a new coach, Mark Kapley, taking over, this is the time to do it. They're trying to work out a trade with Tua Tagovailoa. And I'll tell you this, Mike McDaniel went to the playoffs with Tua Tua led the league in yards. That's why he got that big contract. Just because a guy struggles under a system or a coach, and you can talk to Sam Darnold and other quarterbacks about that, doesn't mean he's going to be a backup the rest of his career. And I would seriously consider keeping him, or if it's financial issues when they cut him. I don't think that we've seen the last of him as a starting quarterback, and I'd love to see what one of these really good quarterback coaches, head coaches, and play callers could do with Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, the Tyreek Hill thing. How much cap money do they have?
They cleared up $66 million by cutting those guys. Bradley Chubb, Miami's done such a terrible job trading draft choices for players like Chubb and Hill and not getting the results of it. Traded Laramie Tunsil, got 2 1s and a 2 and some stiffs in there with a trade with the Texans. Texans go to the playoffs every year, win playoff games. The Dolphins don't because they've just done a bad job. But now they're not going to have the cap issues, and if you're an unrestricted free agent on March 11th, you got a chance to get a lot of money because there's some desperate teams with a lot of money to spend, and the cap's supposed to go up about $25 million per team. That isn't official yet. So all these teams you see that have what is considered cap hell, like the Cowboys, the time they redo contracts and free up cap dollars and get this boost, Cowboys going to be able to sign free agents.
John, your thoughts about Jerome Tang real quick before we let you go.
Well, he deserves every penny he got. You know, what he said was the truth and what he was thinking, and it's chicken, you know what, them trying to turn it against him and get out of paying him. That's not a good look for the next coach. I hope he is reunited with Scott Drew. He was a great recruiter, a great coach who started great at K-State. But I'm not glad he got fired. But if he ends up at Baylor, I will be. And I hope Scott brings him back and he wants to come and they work the magic they worked before.
Thank you, my man. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
your
you,
time.
guys. Take 'em Bears.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with us on 365 Sports. Brandon, we break here. Go straight to quizzes. All right, let me get the screen ready. And there might be a slight delay in what I see. So here we go.
I can also read them.
Yeah, read them to me and to Craig, and then we'll answer the questions if we can.
Okay. The 1983 Pistons.
You got to go. You talk a little louder.
All right, hold up. Okay. The 1983 OT Pistons Nuggets thriller is the highest scoring game in NBA history, 370 points. Despite the scoring explosion, which of these stat anomalies happened in the game? And your first option is all starters scored 20-plus points, a buzzer-beating half-court win, no one fouled out in 3 OTs, only 2 threes combined.
1983 triple overtime Pistons and Nuggets.
Yep.
And which of those that are listed happened in the game? I have no idea. When did they start with a 3-point shot?
I don't know. I wasn't born yet. So,
shame on you or me.
I mean, this is your wheelhouse much more than it is mine. As far as the 1983 Pistons OT game goes, I think I've heard about this game, but I have no idea on what I can't see the things. I have no idea on what
it's right here. I got it on the screen. I'm going to just say a buzzer-beating half-court shot. This is as random as Andrew has ever done doing trivia or quizzes. What is the answer?
Only 2 threes combined.
Wow. Okay, there we go. Next quiz there, Brandon.
Which NFL quarterback went viral for an infamous pregame speech where he licked his fingers while asking his teammates, how many of you want to eat a W tonight?
What are the options? I vaguely remember this.
Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, or Josh Allen.
God, it sounds like something Jameis would do.
Or
it's either
Baker,
Jameis or Baker. Yeah. I feel like that's a Jameis thing, but if it's Baker, I would not be shocked by that.
Yeah. So that correct answer.
I want everybody to look at me. I'm going to pass it to corn after I say one thing. Let's go. That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W. How many people want to eat a W tonight? How many eat a W tonight? Yeah. Come in. That's all I want.
Yeah, that's Jameis.
He's come a long way from his Florida State escapades, that's for sure. Carved out a nice long career for himself and still gets the crab legs mentioned and certainly has his fair share of detractors. But, man, if not for that past, I feel like he'd be the most liked guy, like maybe in American sports, because he's so goofy and just he's fun-loving and all of that. Yeah, he's one of a kind. That's for damn sure. Jameis Winston is one of a kind, man, and people who play with him seem to love the hell out of playing with him and seem to get a lot of motivation and energy from him. So, yeah, that sounded like a Jameis thing there. So, cool. We got that one right.
All right. By the way, in between that, Bobby B, thanks for the super chat. The great John McClain. Olay. Thank you for that, for John McClain on Tuesdays. All right, Brandon, what else?
All right, we got a poll now. So this one is, which March Madness officially month away, with March Madness officially a month away, who in the Big 12 has the best national title shot? And your options are Arizona Wildcats, Iowa State, Houston Cougars, and then the Big 12, the field.
I struggled between picking Arizona and Houston, and Craig, Arizona got 34%.
Yep.
Houston, 27%. The field, 26%, which could include, by the way, Texas Tech and others. And then Iowa State at 13%.
Yeah, I think Arizona's Arizona or Houston, I think those are really safe bets. I would take the field over Iowa State, though, like everybody else, or like a lot of other people actually seem to do. 26, doubled up the Iowa State percentage. So, yeah, that about fall. If I were to put it in order of how I think I would go, that would be how I would go. And really hard to split between Arizona and Houston, though, if we're going to place a marker on one or the other. That's tough.
Iowa State got no bump from last night's win, basically, because I bet that was probably pretty much where they were if they would have asked this question 2 days ago.
Yeah, I don't think last night makes you go, oh, well, they weren't national title contenders, but now they are because of that win. So I think your mind's probably in a pretty similar place to where it was prior to that win. But, yeah, I would feel good taking Arizona or Houston. Hell, I'll just say Arizona for the sake of it. I don't have to make a choice. But, yeah, that's kind of how I would go.
They got it, 34%. They were the pretty heavy, not landslide, because Houston's just a little bit behind him. All right, last poll question.
Yep. Okay, so who's football all-time boogeyman? Dick Butkus, Lawrence Taylor, Jake Lambert, or Ray Lewis?
Jack Lambert.
Or Jack, yeah.
I would say it's Jack Lambert.
Yeah.
He had that look. He had the teeth missing. Butkus was meaner than like a pit bull, and pit bulls can be sweet too. Taylor, of course, but I think Taylor's the one that in a pregame or sideline type rant mentioned the boogeyman. And who was the answer? Who's the winner?
The winner is Lawrence Taylor by 49%.
Golly.
And then in second is Jack Lambert with 19%.
And Ray Lewis and Dick Butkus and Lambert almost all the same.
I don't think Ray Lewis is all that intimidating outside of the murder charge. I think he is an excellent player, and I think so much of his mystique about how just fearsome he was, I think a lot of it stems from that. Not to say I would want to meet him in a boxing ring or a dark alley or a living room. He is a guy who, yeah, I would definitely not be bowing up to whatsoever. But I don't feel like he ever had he had the reputation of being like a badass and being really fierce and competitive. But the boogeyman, I don't know about that. That does seem to strike me as more of like an older player type of a thing. But yeah, LT, depending on how boogeyman sits in your brain, I could see where any answer that's like who's the baddest, scariest, best, whatever, Lawrence Taylor is not a bad choice to make.
Well, he broke a guy's leg. He broke Joe Theismann's leg, and
he was doing all this on crack, basically.
I tell you what, the look of Mike Singletary's eyes whenever there's that famous look, but not a boogeyman, but Lawrence Taylor with almost half of the field at 49%. Thank you very much, Andrew Valade, for the polls and quizzes today. Paxton said, who do you got, Craig and Smokey? K-State or Baylor? I said, that's like asking me, what do I want to eat with poop on it, tomatoes or a pizza? I mean, how do you know? Is K-State going to react with a bunch of emotions with Matt Driscoll? He's a good coach to have available there. Or is Baylor going to take advantage of a team that's been distracted for a couple of days? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough question in Manhattan, too. So I think that they will have support from the home crowd trying to lift them. Man, a 13-12 team versus a 10-15 team. It's like, who's the worst team that deserves the number 1 overall draft pick? They're not both quite that bad, but they're not far off.
Yeah, Utah would like to have a word with you.
I mean, I would hope for Baylor's sake they can go in and beat a wounded animal when they've just fired their head coach, but I don't know that they're equipped to do that. Gosh, I mean, who are you picking? I'll say Baylor goes in there and gets a win, but I would not be surprised. I'm not trying to hedge my bets either. I'm not that guy. But I could totally see like the home crowd lifting K-State with the emotions of just the support.
Oh, they're thrilled. A lot of them are happy. They had bags on their heads.
That makes me actually want to pick K-State, honestly. It makes me want to pick K-State.
Here's something of interest with Baylor, who they're not going to make the tournament. They're going to have to win the Big 12 tournament. They won't do that. They have 6 games left. They're a game above 500. They have K-State, Arizona State, and Utah left on their schedule. All those teams are struggling, as are they. They have Houston and Arizona, and then at UCF, they'll probably not win those 3. So they got to win 3 of the last 6 to clinch a 500 record. Who would have ever thought, since Scott Drew started the great stretch in the late part of, 2008, 2009?
Yeah, well, looks like Baylor's slight favorites, at least at last glance, but it's minimal. It's just a few points, 3.5 points, and I don't know if that's changed in the last few hours or something. So I guess they're slight favorites on the road, but oh man, really splitting hairs. I'll go K-State just because I think the emotions could maybe take them a little higher tonight, but it is not Iowa State Houston like we saw last night. That is for damn sure. It is a bit of a different look from the league than that atmosphere and that crazy game we saw last night.
Nope. Okay, Brandon, thank you very much. Glad to have you back. I know you're out tomorrow. Good luck with what you're dealing with there, and then we'll have Garrett, Andrew, and Paul involved. Craig and I will be back tomorrow. And thank you to our great sponsors. Thanks. And however you watch us and digest us, we appreciate you for all of I've mentioned. Andrew, Paul, Garrett. We'll mention Colin because he's done a lot of hard work behind the scenes. Brandon, Craig, I'm David Smoak. Good night, 365 Sports.